watching closely.
What's the secret, Max?
You just gotta find something you love to do and then do it for the rest of your life.
I don't want to be a product of my environment. I want my environment to be a product of me.
Hello, and welcome to The Establishing Shot, a podcast where we do deep dives into directors and their filmographies. I am your host, Eli Price, and we are here on episode 113 of the podcast. And yeah, we're in Spielberg still, but not for long, because this is the second to last, as of now, Spielberg movie. Hopefully another one coming out next year, but as of now, this is the second to last. So we're talking about West Side Story today. I'm really excited to get into this conversation. To join me for this conversation is our like honorary, I guess, co-host in a way.
At this point, yeah.
JP Boudreaux. And what I wanted to say about JP for this episode is that when he's a jet all the way. That's great. I don't even have to add in the snapping in post.
No.
Yeah, it sounded good.
We're just one step away from just going full on dance fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If we break into song or you see us doing some like pirouettes or whatever, just roll with it.
Not to start singing some of the stuff like
Spielberg's
second to last film. Just throw it out there.
Yeah, it's I'm excited to do this. Before we get into West Side Story though, just JP's been on plenty of times. He's shared his film, how he got into film. He shared how he got into Wes Anderson and Christopher Nolan and Spielberg. He's been in all the series. So I just wanted JP to kind of share maybe some projects. I know did your latest project release like between the last episode and now, or was it already out? I don't remember. Because it was just a few episodes you were on Lincoln with us.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, most recently, I got to kind of put out a little documentary in Guatemala for kind of a family friend of my girlfriend who, like, story of his grandpa's life, which is really fun, just being able to do that together. I think it came out really great. And then I just recently put out a little video, it's kind of like partly a doc, partly a vlog kind of style of a local MMA fighter who just had his professional debut.
Yeah. I watched that one.
There.
It was good.
Yeah, I was there. Thank you, man. I was there on fight night, and that guy especially, Jason, he's just, man, he is a character. Like I really do feel like he's got the personality where like the dude's gonna go far in this business if he keeps it up, because like obviously he's got like the talent when it comes to fighting, but he's just got that personality where you just know he's gonna be a big deal if he's able to make it to the UFC, which is like kind of the biggest stage for professional fighting. There are apparently a couple other like bigger leagues, but obviously like the UFC is like the one.
Right.
Yeah, so that was fun, and should be able to be wrapping up my documentary from Chile pretty soon. Just got a couple more little tweaks to make to it, and when that's out, I will be blasting that everywhere because that's like a dream come true project.
Yeah, I'll be looking forward to seeing that one for sure. JP has like, if you follow him on socials, he'll post like those projects, or like you're on YouTube too, I think is where
I post most updates like on Instagram, but as far as like I usually put any project I do, it'll go on like my Inhabit Creative Co like YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Just kind of have a placeholder for it.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll be looking forward to the Chile one for sure. But yeah, other than that, do you have any like recommendations? What have you been watching recently?
Yeah. I think, I'm not sure how like delayed the release of this episode will be, but
it'll be
kind of been on
a few weeks.
Yeah, kind of been a bit of a TV show kind of mode recently. And so by the time this episode airs, the couple of shows that I have to recommend will probably be fully available to binge. But I will say recently, I finally watched the pilot episode of The X-Files. and I'm thinking about making that my new, like, I don't really have anything else to watch. I just want to kill some time, watch an episode.
Yeah.
But two shows, more recent shows I've been watching that I've been really enjoying that I recommend is number one on Apple TV, Chief of War with Jason
Okay.
Momoa. So far, I've really loved it. I love like historical drama. For any of your listeners, if you loved Shogun, this is right up your alley. Also, super cool. Like most of the cast is either Hawaiian or like Pacific Islander. You see some people in there, like his name escapes me, but is it Tamarison, the guy who plays like Boba Fett?
I don't know. I'm not.
I can't forget how
I
to
couldn't
exactly
tell you.
pronounce his name, but that guy's
Yeah.
in there. You got Cliff Curtis, which so funny with Cliff Curtis because he's played, even though he's like literally Maori, he's literally with a New Zealand accent. He's literally played like so many different like either drug cartel leaders or like Middle Eastern terrorists because he is a little ethnically ambiguous, but he is actually Maori from New Zealand. And so you do have a couple other cultures in there, but what's really cool is that so far the majority language spoken in the show is actually Native Hawaiian.
That's
So
cool.
and it's about the wars of it's about the Hawaiian War of Unification, like kind of in like the kind of late 1600s, early 1700s, somewhere around there.
Gotcha.
Jason Momoa's in it, and he's great. It's not exactly the most original character he's ever played necessarily, but so far I've been really enjoying that show. Some really brutal action, just like the kind of weapons that they had and
Right.
these native tribes at the time, but also Hawaii, beautiful landscape. A lot of the landscape shots are amazing, and the cinematography is like it's right up there with Shogun, where it's just absolutely beautiful. Really loving that, and then kind of on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. If we go from historical drama to science fiction, I know, from what I could tell, it's a little hit or miss for people. I've been loving Alien Earth.
Okay.
It's kind of weird, but like in the best way. And so far, I'm having a great time with that show. So yeah, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I am interested as a fan of the franchise just to see how it ends. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a limited series because there's a pretty. It's kind of like the Obi-Wan TV show where it's like there's a pretty narrow window where you can believably tell a story in this particular context and not like
Gotcha.
ruin the continuity of the entire franchise, which I think I've heard Noah Hawley, who's behind the show, didn't really care necessarily about what's canon, what's not canon per se. But still, it's like, okay, but you know, if the xenomorphs take over the Earth at the end of the show, that would cause some problems probably. But anyway, for the most part, it's been great. It's never been more like there's never been more of a Blade Runner vibe in the Alien movie. Like it's like, you know, there's it's like Blade Runner, Predator, and Alien. Like there's always been like a little bit of secretive fan crossover with these films. So there's some stuff like that. It kind of feels very familiar. But dude, it's brutal. It's kind of funny at some parts. I don't really want to spoil anything. I think people should go in blind, but there's some great acting in the show where characters are portraying themselves as a certain thing and they're doing a great job at it. And I highly recommend.
Who's like the main big name cast? It seems like I remember.
Honestly, it's a lot of like not well-known actors, which I kind of love.
I thought I remembered seeing like some.
Timothy Oliphant is in it. In kind of a more supporting role.
Yeah, I know
he
him.
plays a synthetic, which is an android in the Alien universe. The main character, the two kind of main characters right now is you have the one character whose name is escaping me in the show. What is the name of the oldest sister from Peter Pan? Wendy. So the character Wendy is played by Sydney Chandler, I believe her name is, who is the daughter of the actor whose first name is escaping me. Chandler. He's in like King Kong. He was in Godzilla King of the Monsters. Kyle Chandler, that's his name.
Okay.
So it's to Kyle Chandler's daughter. She's doing great. There's a guy who plays her brother in the show whose name escapes me, but he was most recently in season 1 of Andor. He's the guy who writes that manifesto. You haven't watched Andor, bro?
Not yet.
Okay, forget everything I just said. Watch Andor, everybody. Masterpiece, absolute masterpiece. But he was in that show, and he's like her brother. And so far, Yeah, it's violent. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like xenomorphs. If
It's
you know
supposed
anything
to
about
be, you know?
xenomorphs, they're
Yeah.
very vicious creatures, and they've never been more vicious than in this show. But yeah, so far it's been great, so I recommend that.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't heard a ton about Alien Earth, but I've seen it popping up, here and there. And yeah, I really love the Alien movies. Even like the bad ones, I still kind of enjoy, like Alien 3
Well,
and
here's something interesting for you. I would think that I would think that the film this show feels most inspired by,
Mhm.
in a way, as far as the vibe, I would say is Alien Resurrection. And I
I
mean that
like it.
as a complete compliment. I mean that in the
I
best way possible.
I like Alien Resurrection. Okay.
Dude, I don't necessarily love the whole Ripley clone thing, but the overall vibe of that movie, I was like, dude, this is like Alien meets Jurassic Park, and I kind of love it, actually. Like,
Yeah. The worst
it was
part of Alien Resurrection is like whoever wrote the dialogue for that movie just
Joss
needs to
Whedon,
never have it.
actually,
Yeah, just I don't
believe it or
know.
not.
It's terrible. But yeah, what I like about Alien Resurrections is I like the ideas it's going for,
Mhm,
even if it doesn't hit them. And so
mhm,
like sometimes with bad movies, I can see what they're trying to do, and I probably give
mhm.
too much grace to them because I can see what they were going for, even though
Yeah.
they didn't hit it.
Alien
And
Earth is like the same kind of weird vibe of Alien Resurrection, but like
okay,
done much better with much better
gotcha,
writing, in my opinion.
gotcha, cool. Yeah, I think 3 is I like Resurrections a little bit more than 3.
Oh yeah.
So, um, but yeah, those are definitely the worst two. The rest of all of the rest of them are good movies. Like
I think I prefer Alien over Aliens very slightly. It's like
oh yeah, I
Aliens
do
like four and
too.
a half. Aliens is a 4. Alien Resurrection is like 2.5, 3, and then
Right.
or Alien 3, I'm sorry, is like a 2.5, 3, and then Alien Resurrection for me is like a 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, and what about
Prometheus.
Prometheus and Covenant?
I think Prometheus is like a 3.5 or a 4.
Covenant, I'm one of the few people that like Covenant a little bit more
It's
than
okay.
Prometheus. I
I
like
think I
Covenant.
prefer Prometheus, but mostly because I think Prometheus would be remembered much
It's
more fondly
beautiful.
if it wasn't attached to the Alien universe, because it was originally its own original film, and then Ridley Scott was like, "Well, let's just make this a backwards prequel,"
It may
and
be the most
it doesn't really work.
the most
Oh yeah,
beautifully shot of all of them, I
with
think.
the stupidest scientist characters of all time. That's like the
And
biggest thing about that
Romulus is
movie.
really good too.
Oh, Romulus is fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Romulus was great. Okay, Alien Earth, go watch it. I just don't watch a lot of TV, and so it just like really takes a lot of time for me to get around to watching shows.
I
Even
totally
ones
get
that
that
even ones
with
I'm
the
interested in, but
yeah, I totally get that with the family and everything. It's convenient for me where I come home from work, I just want to sit down and relax. I watch like an episode and then
yeah.
go about the rest of my evening. So that's
A lot
usually
of
how I
times
approach it.
a lot of times the shows I end up watching are when I know it's a miniseries and not like
Mm,
this is going to have like several seasons.
right,
When
right.
I can go in knowing, okay, I can start like Devs. I watched that whenever that came out because I knew it was a miniseries.
I'm also a big supporter of like wait for the show to come out and
Yeah,
then watch it at your own pace. Like
yeah.
I
What
don't really love
what
waiting
was
for
the
episodes.
show? The show I watched. It's the guy that did like Hill House, Haunting at Hill House
Mike
with
Flanagan.
the priest.
Midnight Mass?
Midnight Mass. That was a
Dude, that show
freaking
is a
great show.
masterpiece.
Yeah,
That is
but I
that is
knew it was a
literally
mini series, so I knew
that
like
is
there's a start and a finish.
that is one of my favorite, like, limited series I've ever seen in my entire life. We should
Oh, it's
honestly,
very
dude,
good.
if you ever wanna do, like, an offshoot episode just talking about that, literally, I will be
We
there
might have to.
because there is so much to talk about with that show. A
Oh yeah,
masterpiece. I loved it. I
man.
haven't even seen Bly Manor and Hill House, but Midnight Mass
I
was,
haven't
like,
either.
much more of my vibe, and that show was incredible.
He also did Fall of the House of Usher. I haven't seen that either.
Yes, yes.
Um,
Mhm.
but I want to say he had a movie.
Life of Chuck. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
he
it, but
did
it's
do.
his
It's
first
Mike Flanagan. He
non-horror
did
related
do
thing.
Life of Chuck, and I loved Life of Chuck. Did you see it?
I did not. But I've heard. I
I
have a friend who saw it and loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. It was. It's just. It's very unique in several different ways. But yeah. Yeah, we should probably jump in to.
Yeah, maybe.
We could ramble
Maybe.
like this forever.
Right now, I feel like that was like our overture to open up the episode.
It's the overture. Yeah.
And now we get to the first.
Now it's the prologue.
The first set piece. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is when this is the camera swinging through demolished set. Snapping begins, whistling. The whole oh man, so good. Oh yeah. Okay. West Side Story. We are obviously talking about the 2021 film by Steven Spielberg today, but West Side Story originally opened on Broadway in 1957. Book, which I had to look this up. I was like, there was a book, but it's actually apparently musicals will have these things called librettos, and they're either called that or they just call it the book. And it's what has kind of the story and dialogue. And
is it like when a movie gets turned into a novelization? Is it that kind of vibe?
Not exactly, because you write this it's kind of the opposite. You write this as I didn't look into it a whole lot, but the vibe I got was this is the concept. So you write out the story and the about the characters.
Almost.
Yeah, almost dialogue. It's not the lyrics because Stephen Sondheim wrote the lyrics for the songs. But kind of the story
the play aspects of a musical play,
right? And even so sort of like the screenplay without the lyrics of the music. But.
So you see the research must have, but would it be like you're leaving those segments for the musical numbers that are supposed to involve?
I don't know. This is beyond my pay grade as far as Broadway musicals and
Come
how they
on,
work.
Bro. You never written a musical before?
I was focused on researching the movie version, and so my research into the Broadway play is very minimal. But
fair.
But Arthur Lawrence wrote the book, or basically he wrote. You can think of it as he wrote the story, and so he wrote the story. I just mentioned Stephen Sondheim wrote the lyrics at 25, 26, 27. That's how old he was. Pretty young. Leonard Bernstein did the music, and it was directed and choreographed by Jerome Robbins. So those are the four dudes behind West Side Story. And obviously big hit on Broadway. I don't know I didn't look up how many years it ran, but it was a long time. And then just what? Would it be
that's
4 years later?
Broadway too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then just 4 years later, the film adaptation by Robert Wise and Jerome Robbins in 1961. It won 10 Oscars, which is crazy. And Best Picture being one. Rita Moreno as supporting actress, as Anita being another one related to this version we're talking about. But yeah, big deal. Let's just say that, West Side Story. Before we get into the new one, how long has it been since you watched the original? Because I'm assuming you've watched the original.
Oh yeah. In fact, it was very interesting. I see in your outline here the next thing we'll talk about, because it sounds like Spielberg and I had some very similar experiences growing up. But it's definitely been a while. It was one of the DVDs that we had growing up, and we would definitely watch it. So I'm very familiar. I have very fond memories of watching it, and I've always loved the song America, just the vibe of it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about we'll get into the lyrical content of some of these songs, but just to take a moment right now and talk about just the music that Bernstein wrote for this musical. I mean, it is some very, very catchy stuff. So I have very fond memories of watching it. It definitely has been some time since. I can't tell you the last time I watched the 61 version. I did watch the one we're talking about today just a couple days ago, just to kind of refresh my memory, because I
Right.
saw it when it came out in theaters. But the 61 version, I honestly can't tell you the last time I saw it, but I do know that there are a lot of differences between that and this.
Yeah.
And I would say most, if not all of those differences, from what I can think of, I think are actually beneficial. But
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, so I did not grow up with West Side Story. And so I think I watched it for the first and only time I've watched it like 5 or 6 years ago. And I haven't revisited it. And I have mixed feelings about the original. Obviously, like the music and the songs I really enjoy. I think it's more like some of it is like the acting and the casting. Some of it is just the kind of story in general. It's kind of like the Romeo Juliet problem. Like
hmm
you either like buy into it or you don't, sort of thing.
hmm
And so, yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of the original.
hmm
And maybe like if I went back and watched it now, I would probably like appreciate it a lot more. Just coming off of the high of this version, or
hmm
maybe it would make me like it less, but I don't know. But yeah, it's just interesting. I just wanted to hear
yeah,
how how you kind of came into.
I think it's definitely one of those movies you watch it and you're like, it's definitely a product of its time,
Yeah,
not just in the terms of casting, but also just like in staging and directing.
yeah.
Like,
It's well
I don't think it's
made,
yeah,
but
but
yeah.
I do think that this updated version for 2021, not even just getting to like the casting decisions, but just the general presentation, I do think is like a very worthy
Oh
upgrade.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So Steven Spielberg, he grew up in a very musical home. His mom was, as we feel like we've probably talked about at some point, was a
hmm
classical pianist. Um, before she kind of ended up at home with the kids. But yeah, so he grew up with his mom playing classical piano, listening to classical music at the home. And he said that West Side Story, the vinyl record, his parents brought home, and that was the first popular music record in his home. And he was 10 years old when that happened. And so,
That was like his Little Wayne mixtape or something like that, you know?
yeah, yeah. And so he obviously, like, when you have a lot of classical music and then you have the one thing that's different, he listened to it a lot. He even talked about when he was 10 or 11 or something, he started like singing some of the lyrics to Officer Krupke,
hmm
that song, like, my father's a bastard. And his parents like freaked out and like, what's going on? Where did you hear this? And he's like, it's that
hmm
record you brought home. So, and then he even talked about when the movie came out, he saw it in theaters like 5 times.
hmm
And so he has a very strong relationship to this movie. This is
mm
like, if you go like all the way back to like Temple of Doom, like the opening scene in Temple of Doom, or like the dance sequence in
mm
1941, all of those are him. Like, he's always wanted to make a musical, and he's always had like in the back of his mind, like, what if I was able to make a new West Side Story?
hmm
Um, so it's kind of like, this is kind of like his passion project in a lot of ways. Like the thing he's always wanted to do, but has never like, one, had like the chance to do, and two, like had the guts to do.
hmm
Cause it kind of does take a lot of guts to redo like a classic, especially like a musical.
hmm
And so, yeah, he worked really hard to get the rights. In 2014, Kevin McCollum held the rights, and him and 20th Century Fox approached. He had to do a lot of like meetings with Sondheim, and then Sondheim was at that point was the only of the original 4 creators that were still alive.
hmm
So met with Sondheim, and then met with like the estates of the families, and really like had to earn their trust to do it, that he was going to do this right. And yeah, he eventually got the rights. They allowed for change in the dialogue, but not for like the story or lyrics, which they did change the dialogue. I think Spielberg said they only used like 5% of the dialogue from the original.
mm
So they did a lot of work there. But yeah, and then
Which makes sense
yeah.
because like a play is such a different format than a film.
Oh yeah.
And so, like, the kind of things that you would say and the way you would present them in a play won't always translate to a
Right.
film. Like, because, like, they say, like, when you're doing a play, you're always trying to project to the furthest back row. So you can't have, like, some of these more subtle moments where someone's, like, whispering necessarily
Yeah,
in
sure.
a play, unless, at least traditionally when no one's using microphones or anything like that. So
Right.
it would make sense, the combination of that, but also just wanting to, like, I do think that the movie really has a good line between it does kind of still feel like it's like at the 50s, but like the
Yeah.
dialogue isn't like extremely antiquated.
Yeah, yeah. It's like period. It still feels period, but like it has a modern sensibility.
It's like retro futuristic almost in
Yeah.
a way, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so, which a lot of that, so Tony Kushner is who he brought on as the writer. So and when he first approached him, Tony Kushner was like, I don't know about that, like redoing West Side Story. But he
Mhm.
eventually came on. What's funny is it seems like Tony Kushner is always brought on to collab with Steven Spielberg when they're doing movies that kind of echo the past into the present. So you think about like Munich, Lincoln, and then this are all movies that like
Mhm.
are set in the past, but like kind of really echo into like the present day moment issues that you're facing in the present, like cultural, political times that we're in. All three of those are like very much so that sort of thing. So he was the right choice in that way, but also, I don't know. It seems like Tony Kushner really like worked hard to make this story flow well.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I think he did a really good job. And he talks about he basically like they didn't want this to be like, oh, this is a remake of the adaptation, the film adaptation. This is a new adaptation of the original material. And
Mhm.
so, and that's kind of, I mean, I think anytime there's like another like Little Women, like, there's been lots of Little Women.
Or I mean,
And
even with
you
this,
want
where
to
it's,
start with the source material.
yeah, I mean, even with this, it's technically just Romeo and Juliet, essentially.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it's the foundation of the story is Romeo and Juliet. Like the skeleton of the story is still that. But yeah, that they kind of used Arthur Lawrence's like libretto, or
Mhm.
his book of the story as the launching point and really like melded it together from there. And in a lot of ways too, they kind of, and we'll talk about this when we start like going through like the songs and the structure of the movie, but the original adaptation from 61 did some like mixing around of some of the structure of like when the songs happen. This did in some ways like went back to their way it originally was, and in other ways like mixed it around in ways that the original didn't. So it's funny, like they both adaptations kind of chose different ways to restructure like the songs.
Mhm.
So like the examples I can think of are in the original stage play Tonight, I mean Maria goes right into Tonight just like it does in this Spielberg adaptation. Well, in the original adaptation, I think they broke it up with America in the middle of Tonight,
Mm.
and with Maria and Tonight. And then the cool in the original adaptation is just like it is in the stage play. It's right after the Rumble. And
Mhm.
so it's not like Tony and Riff singing it. It's after Riff has died.
Mm,
And in
yeah, you're
this,
right.
they move it before the Rumble, and it becomes kind of like this like kind of like
He's like
struggle
singing it, yeah, singing it
of the
to
old
Riff,
and the
like, "Yo, you gotta
new.
cool it down, bro."
Right.
Right.
So those are like some of the it's just interesting to me how like they kind of mixed the song structure up in different ways. And so so let's talk through the crew and the cast. The crew of this movie is obviously in some ways the typical, wow, I totally typoed one of the names. I just noticed in some ways is the typical like Spielberg crew. And obviously in other ways, like that's not really possible because you're making a musical. So we'll hear some familiar names and some new names. But Christy McCosco Krieger and Kevin McCollum, who on the rights at the time produced it along with Spielberg. Krieger is his kind of like Amblin producer. She's producing a lot of the Amblin stuff, obviously based on the Broadway show and Arthur Lawrence book that we've talked about. The screenplay is by Tony Kushner, and the DP or cinematographer Janusz Kaminski, of course. I added an extra A in my notes, so it says Kaminskia. And the editors are Michael Kahn and Sarah Brochar. So this is Michael Kahn's last movie with Spielberg. Sarah Brochar has been kind of co-editing with him for the past few movies. And sound is the typical Spielberg guys with Andy Nelson and Gary Rydstrom. But David Newman does some like the new arrangements for this adaptation. And the conductor is Gustavo Dudamel. He's conducting with the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. John Williams, the man himself, advised Spielberg to hire him. And Dudamel talked about, it was cool to hear him talk about how at 15 years old, he was in some conducting classes. And they actually were doing some arrangements of I Feel Pretty in his conducting class. So he has like kind of a close connection to the material. And then I thought this is like after this was made, but he did become the musical director of the Paris Opera in April of 2021. So I threw that in there just to show this guy's a pretty big deal. I personally don't know much about the Paris Opera, but I have the feeling it's a pretty big deal. So but yeah, lyrics, of course, Stephen Sondheim. And then we have some kind of people that are helping make the musical aspects happen. Janine Tesori does the vocal production. She's huge. I really enjoyed seeing her. She's in a lot of the special features on the Blu-ray. So I enjoyed hearing from her. Matthew Rush does the music production. Matthew Rush Sullivan, I should say. And Justin Peck does the choreography. Now, I should say he's connected to the New York City Ballet Company, so he's like a pretty big deal too. But I should say about the choreography, I think in the credits it also has Jerome Robbins, but I think the more accurate thing would be to say it's based on the original choreography from Robbins, because Justin Peck does a lot of different stuff with the choreography. It is not the original choreography. It's inspired by it and based on it, but it's not the original choreography. So I say that just because I feel like he needs to get like the credit, like more credit than he got, I guess, in the actual credits of the movie.
Yeah, there's some phenomenal dance choreography in this film for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we will certainly talk about it. The production designer is Adam Stockhausen. Spielberg's been stealing him from Wes Anderson for a few movies here and there, and art direction by Rena D'Angelo. Costumes were by Paul Tazwell, who worked on Hamilton. He did the costumes for Hamilton. So another guy that's a big deal in the musical world. And then I meant every once in a while I'll mention like the first assistant director or assistant directors. Adam Somner has been Spielberg's AD for like forever. And I always mention his name, but I don't really talk much about what he does, what like first ADs do, because it doesn't really come up much in my research. But it did this time. So here's an example, because I know if you've been listening through the series, I know that you've heard Adam Somner's name before. Here's an example of how big of a like deal he is for Spielberg and the production of the movie. So if you think about the kind of quintet version of Tonight, where you have leading up to the Rumble, you have all these different aspects of that song. You have the Sharks getting ready, you have the Jets getting ready, you have Tony, headed to meet Maria, you have Maria headed to meet Tony. I think you even have like some Anita stuff thrown in here and there. So you have like 5 different things going on. Well, one of the things Adam Somner did is he said, okay, let's map out the shooting schedule for this, because they're doing all of this it's not split up when they're shooting this. They're shooting this all, together, but they do have to figure out, okay, when are we shooting this part of this group singing this part? Because at one point, for instance, Maria passes the Jets in the street. So you have to have their paths cross, and you have to match the shooting schedule up so that you have the right people in the right spot.
Yeah.
If it sounds confusing, it's because it is. And it takes someone like Adam Somner, Spielberg's go-to first AD, to like put that on paper, match out everything. It's a big deal.
And I'm
For
sure,
sure.
I'm sure Adam and Steven have a unique relationship because they've been working together for so long. But yeah, that, having been on sets, that is typically the first AD's job, is to make sure everything is on schedule. And like, that's a lot of what you're doing in prep is, hey, we're going to have Ansel Igor for these are the shooting, of all of our full shooting calendar. These are the days that we have him. When do we need to film what, when? And like, you put together what they call the sides, which is basically the segments of the script that you are shooting that day. Everyone gets a copy of those. Like, as a PA, that's one of your main jobs, is making sure everybody can get a copy of the sides, which is like literally just the parts of the script that we're shooting for that day. And for instance, if you've ever seen in a movie or TV show where they're showing you like behind the scenes of something, and you hear somebody go, and action, that's usually the first AD. Like they're the ones who yell action and cut. They're the ones who will run back and forth with the director, ask if there's any notes, because the director's usually like living in Video Village, which sometimes could be very far away from set. So,
it's
that's
not
like
with
their right-hand man,
Spielberg,
right? Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that was just like a really good example of like the absolute chaos of a shooting schedule, just thinking about shooting that sequence.
Especially when the cast this size, for sure.
Yeah. A lot of moving parts, and that's the guy that's making sure it happens. And so, yeah, he doesn't get like a lot of credit, but he is a big deal for Spielberg. And he never really pops up in the special features, so he just must not be like a in front of camera kind of guy.
He's like, nah, behind the scenes only.
Yeah. The only other crew I wanted to mention was Cindy Tolan, who did the casting. I thought she deserved a big shout out for putting this cast together. But yeah, speaking of the cast, this movie took a whole year to cast, partly because they took a while to like find some of the characters, and partly because there's a lot of people to cast in the movie. But a few things before we get into the actual cast members that I thought was cool to point out. The main thing is that Spielberg was determined to have all the sharks be Latinx actors, and he was very, very focused on that. And he was successful. That they had all the sharks were of Latin origin, and I always appreciate when people are like intentional about that, especially like with the casting in the first film. Natalie Wood is not by any stretch a Latina woman, and so it's just nice to see people being very intentional about that sort of thing. And then on top of that, out of the 50 Latino actors, 20 were Nuyorican, which are Puerto Rican immigrants to New York. That's kind of what the term they call themselves.
That's cool.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool. Another casting fact: Spielberg did not want any vocal dubbing, which you have in the original adaptation as well. So all the actors had to be able to sing. And on top of that,
I would say a slight benefit of that is that a lot of these songs, for most of the quote unquote bit parts, they're all singing together. So it's like, you just have to sing. You don't necessarily have to sing well, because when you have like 20 people singing the same lines, it all blends together. It'll sound all right.
Yeah. Well, so what happened with this movie, though, is 50 of the cast members are this is their first time in a film. And the main reason for that is because a lot of them are coming from Broadway. So they're sort of, Broadway or stage act, maybe not necessarily even Broadway, but stage actors that are singing on a regular basis. So that helps.
Right, for sure.
But you'll have a lot of people that aren't used to being in front of a camera too. So there's some getting used to there. Yeah, let's talk about the cast members. Ansel Elgort, who plays Tony.
Love him.
So here's the thing. The first time I saw West Side, well, let's get into what we think about him after I give like the breakdown. So Elgort is the son of an opera director and a fashion photographer. So he's kind of used to both the camera and the music side of things in a lot of ways. He got his I guess his breakout would have been Fault in Our Stars, would have been his kind of like breakout role. And then I would probably say the role that showed that he had this sort of movie in him would have been Baby Driver. He's doing a lot of like movement in that movie, like synchronized movement that kind of matches well with a musical style choreography. And
I would maybe even argue that Baby Driver was his like true breakout role. I mean, I think I did, because like I
for
know
certain
that they had a
audiences,
movie of The Fault in Our Stars, but I didn't even realize he was in the movie.
yeah. Well, it was a pretty big deal for like a certain segment
The
of
tweens.
audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it might not have been like his breakout for, you know, all audiences, but for like, yeah, I would still say The Fault in Our Stars was like his breakout because it was a pretty big movie for certain audiences. But yeah, I did not see that. Baby Driver was my first.
Baby Driver is my introduction to him
too.
for sure.
Yeah. And he's great in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so, and you definitely, when you watch that, if you watch this and you go back and watch that, you can be like, oh yeah, he kind of has the vibe that shows he can be in a musical. But the problem was less like his movement and more his vocals. He talked about he sent in tapes to Toa, the casting director, and he sent in tapes of him singing Maria. He wanted to choose the song he felt like was the hardest of Tony's songs to sing. And so the first times he was sending tapes in, she would send back a message to him saying, I'm not showing these to Spielberg, but keep trying. So obviously his first tapes were not good enough, but he did like vocal coaching for several months, I think. And yeah, the funny thing is he came in and he had a sinus infection, but he did his audition anyway. And Spielberg found out he had a sinus infection and had him come back in once he was better to do another audition. And that's when he finally got the part. So it wasn't easy going for Ansel Elgort to get this role. But yeah, so this is an interesting discussion because most people, when you go and like read critics or kind of just hear the general buzz around the movie when it came out, was that Ansel Elgort was like the weak point of the movie.
There's also some personal controversy that was around the same time.
Yeah,
which,
and we can mention that.
When I was looking at, like, when I was going to like kind of make a new review on Letterboxd, a couple other people I follow who watched it, you could see the date was right around when the movie came out, and quite a few of them were like saying some things that about Ansel Elgort and how he should have been recast. He shouldn't have even put them in this movie, and you know,
yeah.
We don't necessarily have to like get into the details because it's that particular instance feels like a very like he said, she said, and like I don't really know if it's ever been said for sure like what the actual situation was. But I mean, obviously, I always want the best for out of a situation like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Just to say it, he was accused of sexual assault. So in June of we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but the movie was set to release originally in December of 2020, and it got pushed back a whole year because of COVID, basically the release. But in June of 2020 is when he got accused of sexual assault. There were like, I want to say there was some text messages that got put out like on social media and stuff. That didn't look good. And I don't think from what I know, he never like he always denied the charges, and so I
Well,
didn't really
it
do
wasn't like I don't believe he was brought up on criminal charges. It was the
right.
allegations
The
from the individual.
allegations is the right word, but yeah. But basically, like at that point, you're talking June 2020. I mean, they had shot the movie and edited it. Like the movie was done.
Yeah.
And this is not only is this like a big production movie, it's a musical. And so even if like it came out and it was like true, he had like criminal charges, it's kind of like you can't recast him now. Like the movie's made. You would have to start from scratch and
Unless you're
redo all of his
Ridley
scenes.
Scott, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
And you want to reshoot a movie in like 16 days.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Spielberg is Ridley Scott.
No.
So I don't know. There's certain things like that where it's kind of like, okay, you can't really like put this on the movie and read this into the movie. They obviously like didn't know this stuff was going on when they cast him, when they were on set. Like if there was stuff going on set, you would hope that it would be addressed. You know, it just, yeah, it just was, you can't put that on a movie and critique it based on something that has nothing to do with the movie.
It's a very like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation.
Yeah, right. I mean, you can say it's just kind of one of those, in certain ways you have to separate like the art from the artist. And in this case, it's like, it's not even really like the artist. It's just like one piece of the whole. So,
and I think for the most part, it's interesting that people say he's the weak point of this movie. Outside of that whole situation, I think for me, and maybe it's just the goodwill that he built with me as a viewer in Baby Driver, and also thinking that I saw him in like Tokyo Vice, which he's been in most recently on HBO, and he's really good in that show. Like I think he's a pretty solid actor, and so it's interesting to hear that he's the weak point of this movie for some people's perspective. Because personally, I think he's very charming and likable in this film.
I think
he's got like those kind of boyish good looks vibes. He seems like the guy that a girl could fall into the instant they meet her. Essentially, like that's the vibe he gives off.
And I agree. I think my theory is that it's not necessarily an Ansel Elgort problem. It's a Romeo problem. It's the character of Romeo.
Yes. I can understand that completely.
And I think like no matter who you put, it can be Leonardo DiCaprio, it can be Ansel Elgort, like whoever you put in the character of Romeo, he's just like a hard character to really like buy into. His motivations are
either
weird.
Comes off as too arrogant or too immature. Like it's I mean, he feels like a character that was written in the 1600s because he is. Like, and so if you're basing if the spine of your project of your story is kind of inspired by that kind of character, then I totally agree. I do think it is more so a Romeo problem because the character itself has a very limited. He's like a plot point more than a character.
Yeah, he's not very dynamic as a character. Now, I would say like they give him they do their best to give him at least like a backstory that shows some dynamics, even if you don't see those dynamic play out on screen. There's at least like a backstory that you can kind of like fill in the blanks in your head. And I think it's just, to me, it's a question of, can you do that in your head while you're watching the movie so that you can like buy into it? Because I was talking to, I watched it with Robin, my wife, and she was just like, I don't buy him as like the tough guy. She's like, I can buy that he like loves her, but I have a hard time buying that he's like the tough guy. And what I told her was like, this time when I watched it, because I had the same problem the first time, because I went back and read my review from back then, and I was like, oh, I had that same problem back then. I think this time I was able to like read the backstory into things. Okay, he's been to prison. he's like he like legitimately 100% wants to be a different person, and so he's kind of he's had
He's quite
this kind
literally
of
cleaned himself up.
yeah, exactly. He's had this off moment, off moment. He's had this off camera epiphany before the movie started that you don't get to see, but if you can like fill that in your mind while you watch,
Mhm.
it makes sense. But to be fair, if you can't feel that in your mind, it's not really on the viewer to have to do that necessarily. So
Mhm.
I do understand the critique. It's just a matter of it's kind of a subjective thing of if
Mhm.
you can or are willing to fill in those blanks for the character in your mind. I was this time around, and so I didn't really have those problems, but it is a understandable critique to me.
I think he looks more believable as a tough guy than Mike Face or Feist or however you say his
Yeah.
last name
I think
personally, but
yeah, I
we can
think
get into that too.
they're different.
Yeah.
They have like the tough thing in different ways, but yeah, I mean, we can jump into Mike Feist as
Mhm.
Riff. He actually auditioned for Tony
Mhm.
at first, and then he got called back to audition for Riff.
Which I think was the right call. I think
I think so too.
he's a great riff. He looks like a riff. Like he looks like a guy named Riff.
Yeah,
He just does.
he's phenomenal. He is to me like one of the really strong points of the movie. I think what feels dangerous about Riff is he feels more unpredictable. He's kind of got that like wiry, scrappy, unpredictable, and then on
He's like a
top,
wire-haired dachshund,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, just ready to
yeah,
go at all times.
yeah, oh yeah. And the other thing that feels dangerous about him is he feels more insecure than Tony.
Oh yeah.
Um, like they don't really like overemphasize this in the story for this movie, but I think there is a bit of like, I don't know if I can lead the Jets like you led the Jets
Mhm.
kind of thing going on with Riff. Like this
Mhm.
insecurity. And sometimes those sorts of insecurities make you even more like dangerous and more like likely to lash out. Um, and so he has that kind of energy and that he kind of carries through the movie
Mm.
to me, um, which is not easy to do. It speaks a lot to like how good Mike Feist is in the movie. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, apparently he doesn't really do like act like he was
I think
never
he
like
I think the only
doing
thing he's been in recently was
his challengers.
Challengers. Yeah.
Oh, he was in the Bike Riders too. I forget that. There was a while where he kind of went off the grid though. And so he's phenomenal in Challengers. Him and Josh O'Connor. Have you seen Challengers? You've got to watch it. It's so good. But we don't have to follow that bunny trail, but just when you get the chance watch Challengers. It's very very good.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Mike Feist is one of the strong points of the movie.
For sure.
He's a product of like Broadway. Did he? I know he was Tony nominated for Dear Evan Hansen, but I can't remember if he won the Tony for it or not. But he was at least Tony nominated, so a talented dude.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, he's great. And then going back to Maria, Rachel Zegler, think whatever you want about Rachel Zegler. She's like she has
Interestingly enough, has had her own string of controversy in recent years.
yeah, a little less like a
Serious,
little
for
more just
sure.
like personality based
Mhm.
than anything like bad.
Mhm.
Um, but in this movie, so when she was cast, I think she was 17. By the time they were filming, she was 18. It's her first ever film. Um, kind of a girl that grew up like performing. She had actually just played Maria on stage for a few performances when she was 16 in New Jersey, where she was from.
Mhm.
Um, and Spielberg said she was on the first day of casting, she auditioned and blew him away. But then they went through like hundreds of more girls for Maria, and they ended up going back to her.
Mhm.
Tesori, the vocal producer, said she had never been in a recording session before when she started with her. Just very inexperienced in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And she's like, she might be the best performance of the movie.
Oh yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah, I'll say putting the whole Snow White thing
Yeah.
aside, she's very likable in this movie. I will give her
Yeah.
that. She's incredibly likable in this movie. She just really envelops that like kind of like sweet innocence of a character
Young
like
love.
Juliet slash Maria, young love, exactly. Also, huge props to her, and I think a lot of the kind of Latino side of the cast that don't naturally have a cultural
The
accent.
accent. Yeah.
Like she's not only is she speaking with a pretty heavy Puerto Rican accent in a lot of scenes because she's kind of a little kind of more fresh off the boat, so to speak, when it comes to getting into New York. But
Right.
she's like singing with that same accent, which I can't
Yeah.
even imagine how much more difficult that is when it's not your normal kind of diction, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, incredible. She like is throwing out so much like energy that I think I remember who's the guy that plays Chino? Josh Rivera. He talked about how in that finale scene, like he wasn't even really acting anymore per se. He was just like feeding off of like the crazy energy she was putting off. And so like he was saying like the look that you see like in my face is just me reacting to her like legitimately. I'm not even like acting.
The ending scene is so powerful. She's great.
Yeah. So, and I'm gonna say more about how good I think she is later when we start talking about like the songs and the plotting and all that. But yeah, can't say enough about how good Zegler is. I didn't see Snow White, but I did see a few scenes, and from what I can tell, she's fine in Snow White. Like it seems like she's not the problem with the movie. It's other casting choices and just the general like live action remake of it all. She sounds great. Like if you listen to the soundtrack or go watch, some scenes of her singing, she still like is an incredible vocalist.
Or even like the Bow to Songbirds and Snakes, which I still haven't seen, but I've seen a couple clips of her in that movie. Again, singing in an accent that is not her own, because I think her character's got like a southern drawl in that movie. So
there you go.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But like that, I guess like this is just me thinking off the top of my head, but people that are like great vocalists probably have a better palette for being able to like do different things with their voices.
Yeah, probably so.
I don't know if that's true, but the hypothesis makes sense in my head. But yeah, moving on down the cast, Ariana DeBose plays Anita. Her dad was Puerto Rican, so she talked about like connecting to her roots with this role. She is also a product of stage plays and Broadway, so that's kind of her background coming into this movie as well.
She's great.
She's so good, she won an Oscar.
I honestly can't think of a single person that is not good in their role in this movie. So I mean, like you said, props to the casting director. They really nailed it.
For sure. She was in Hamilton. Do you know what she is in Hamilton? This is a pop quiz.
Is she just like a part of the chorus in Hamilton?
Sort of, but she's something specific. She is the bullet in Hamilton.
Oh,
so anytime,
no way.
Yeah. So when you see the person like going across with the bullet, that's her.
Wow. I never even noticed that. Yeah. Okay.
So she was a bullet in Hamilton, and she's a bullet with her acting in this movie, I think. Yeah, she's great in the movie. I mean, everyone's great. David Alvarez plays Bernardo. He's great. He seems like he's just like a really fun guy from watching him in like the special features.
Dude, I think my favorite part from Bernardo is in the very beginning when the detective calls everybody a muchacho, and then he goes, "Well, it seems to me, muchacho." He just like kind of mocking him back with the guy's like just murdering the Spanish language, and he's just hitting him back with it. I don't know. He's got a great kind of like I mean, he's a boxer. Like his kind of his backstory. He's got like this kind of like almost like pit bull like energy in this movie.
Yeah,
he's just like ready to go at any moment.
Yeah. And he does really good too, like switching back and forth really fast between like playful and like intimidating.
Yeah.
Like he has this kind of like this boiling like anger, intimidating anger that kind of
Mhm.
pops out. But when it's not, like he plays like playful and fun really well too.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah. The other like big role I think is Rita Moreno as Valentina. So I already mentioned it, I think, but Rita Moreno played Anita in the 61 adaptation, and I believe she won the Oscar for supporting actress for that role. So
Mhm.
that's two Anitas winning supporting actress now. But yeah, it was
I think you
actually
could argue Anita gets the most to do in the play in a way, like as far as like
yeah.
performance
Mhm.
wise, because of just the
Yeah.
arc her character goes through.
Yeah. And, you know, like we said, like you have Tony and Maria are kind of like the Romeo and Juliet,
Mhm.
like stand ins. And so
Mhm.
those characters,
They're kind of
it's
locked
just,
in to
they,
what they're gonna do.
those characters just are what they are. And kind of like in Romeo and Juliet, some of the side characters are a little bit more interesting.
Exactly. Yeah. Like
And
Tibbles.
so, yeah. And so that holds up with Anita too, I think. And but yeah, so Valentina, who Moreno plays, was not in the original material or the adaptation. That character was Doc, who owned the shop, and it was
Mhm.
actually Tony Kushner's husband, Mark Harris, his idea to kind of take the Doc character out and put in a Puerto Rican woman in that role. That kind of that idea of having like Doc and Valentina were like a mixed couple, interracial couple, and so yeah, that was his idea, and it works really well, I think.
Mhm.
And then like on top of that, coming up with that idea and then bringing Rita Moreno back in, you know, theater is a very like it's all about legacy, and so to be able to like bring her back
Mhm.
for something like that is just like perfect. And then on top of that, like she's a real New Yorican. She moved from Puerto Rico to New York when she was 5, so she just has that background,
Mhm.
like just huge. And then she just brings like incredible energy on set. Like anytime she pops up in the special features, I'm just like, oh, give me more of her.
Mhm.
Because I mean, at this point, she's over 80 years old, and she just somehow like has so much like positive energy that
Mhm.
she brings. Really, really incredible. Um, but yeah, we'll definitely dive more into her later. I'll mention a few others. You have Brian D'Arcy James playing Officer Krupke, Corey Stahl playing Lieutenant Schrank, and Josh Rivera playing Chino. Those are kind of like a few other characters that have a little bit more to do. Should I run through all the sharks and jets? There's a lot of names here. I
I
should
think.
definitely go ahead.
I mean, it's your show, but we got a lot to get through.
I'll mention a few people. So Iris Minas plays Anybody's, who was kind of had the more like tomboyish feel in the original. Apparently when he wrote the original, his idea was to have a trans person, but just the way you did that back then, I think was just like tomboy. And
Mhm.
so Iris Minas is actually a trans person that plays in this role. So another
Mhm.
example of like actually casting someone to play the sort of character you're casting. So I thought I would point that out. There's not really any other big names or big things to point out with the rest of the cast. Yeah, you can go look it up. There's the best way to look it up is like there's the fan wiki
Mhm.
for this, and if you want to like see the breakdown of like who all are the sharks, who all are the jets, that's the easiest way to like see the casting breakdown.
Mhm.
But they're all really great. The jets get a little bit more to do than the sharks do. I think they tried to do a little bit more balancing with this adaptation from the original, but it still like leans toward the Jets side of things. I mean, you get America and then you get G Officer Krupke, but I think just in general you get a little bit more leaning toward the Jets as far as like the amount
Mhm.
of material you have to work with, the amount of like connection you have with the characters. But yeah, I don't did you kind of feel that as well?
I mean, maybe a little bit, and I think it's just because of
Yeah.
the nature of the story,
Yeah.
because it is so kind of built around Tony,
Right.
and like Maria's not involved with the sharks, but
Right.
Tony is the former leader slash co-leader of the
Yeah.
jet. So it does
Like
kind of
you.
make sense that it leans a little bit more on his side because part of the story is him trying to prevent the rumble from happening and things like that. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And like you just don't have like you don't have a cool song
Hmm.
for the Sharks, or you
Hmm.
don't have like a jet like the opening Jets number for the Sharks.
Hmm. And it's
That
also one of those things like you got to pick your battles. Like you can't if you do each side completely equally, I don't think it would be well. So you got to
right.
you got to frame the story a little bit more through one side or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. One of the things they did add, which I thought was really cool, was actually the first thing that's sung in the movie is La Barranqueña, which
Hmm.
is a Puerto Rican like rebel anthem. And so that was the first thing sung. So I do think that was
Hmm.
cool. And that was like a powerful moment, with them all raising their arms and singing
Hmm.
that anthem. And the anthem is like all about like freedom and claiming freedom and rights. So it works because a lot of the Puerto Ricans came to New York because their freedom and rights were being taken away there, and they come
Hmm.
here and they're still having to fight for their freedom and rights. So there's a lot of I don't know, just powerful thematic stuff going on with that.
Hi. Quick reminder that you, yes, you, can be a huge help to the production of this show. If you visit establishingshotpod.com/donate, you'll find out how to join the Establishing Shot family through some giving tiers starting as low as $5 a month. You heard that right, only $5 a month. And not only will you be helping me keep the show going, but you'll also get some perks yourself, like early and ad-free episodes, bonus episodes, access to a Discord server where we can chat it up about the show and movies in general, and more. Might even let you choose a movie for me to review for the show. Check out that link in the show notes to learn more. Back to the show.
Yeah, let's talk about the production. There was the same amount of time put into rehearsal as there was into the filming. Spielberg talked about this is the most like rehearsed thing he's ever done, which I guess is kind of like, yeah,
Hmm.
of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like 4.5-ish months of rehearsal and prep that they did. So that includes like choreography, orchestration, vocal coaching, doing the vocal recording sessions, dialect coaching, all of that stuff is like 4 to 5 months worth of work. And then as they got like closer to filming, they did about 3 weeks of pre-recording for vocals. So I don't know what percentage was shot and recorded live, but they did shoot and record some of the songs live. So some of the more like intimate songs. So I think the ones I remember Spielberg saying are Somewhere was filmed and recorded live. A Boy Like That. I think it's A Boy Like That / The Love I Have or something. What is it called? I think I have it written down. Yeah, I Have a Love. That I think that was recorded and filmed live. One Hand, One Heart was recorded and filmed live. And then about 75% of Tonight was. He said like anytime there's like wide shots in Tonight, it's playback, which is a term that just means they pre-recorded it and they're playing it back while they while they film it. So yeah, so they did
Basically
do
live lip syncing essentially.
right, exactly. And the way they do that is the actors will wear earpieces in their ears that's playing back the song as they film. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, so I thought it was cool that they did like whenever they possibly could, they did do some like live recording for the vocals. But they did a bunch of pre-recording beforehand. So yeah, the cool thing about that is by the time when you have a film where you have so many characters like interacting and they have to bring this like energy of camaraderie on screen, you've been working and like being around these people for like long days and long hours for almost half a year, you know? And so by the time you're filming, like you don't have to act like you love these guys anymore. You've been hanging out with them for 5 months. So
Yeah,
it just kind of comes naturally.
just for reference, most movie productions, like a film production, is usually going to be 1 to 3 months, and so if it's a 1 month, you're maybe doing like a week of prep, and that's mostly just like scheduling stuff. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe a little bit of stunt work. A TV show is like 6 months, so their prep, just the prep work, was almost as long as a full TV show's production. So
Yeah.
so by the and even in a couple of months working with people, I mean they become I still have some people that are really good friends of mine that I've met through some sets that I worked on, and so you really, especially depending on your role, like working with second team, which is the stand-ins, anytime they're trying to set up a new camera shot, these people who they kind of match the height and build of the actors, so the actors don't have to just stand around waiting
Yeah.
for the cameras to be reset, because sometimes it can literally take hours to get everything right. And so, especially those people, we spend a lot of time. If we're on stage, we're just kind of hanging out somewhere off camera, waiting for them to be called. And, you get to talking, you get to know people. You're there for 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day,
Yep.
5 days a week for a month or two straight. I mean, you get pretty close.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And so I did love that. Yeah, then they get into filming. They film from July 1st to September 27th in 2019. A long time between finishing filming and it releasing, thanks to our good friend Mr. COVID. But yeah, so location wise, Stockhausen really like honed in on New York. Like this is a very New York movie. You want it to look like New York, but it's also period. So you kind of have to like find stuff that looks like the period New York. So they did do some like on location stuff. So they filmed, the first thing they shot was the cool sequence, and they shot that at Bush Terminal Piers Park in Brooklyn. And that set is incredible. I think it looks really great. A lot of like fun stuff to like move around and hang on.
I think one thing that did stick out to me about that scene is at the very end, and I never noticed it when I saw it in the theater, obviously, but watching it kind of on the same monitor I'm looking at you at now here at home, when I rewatched it recently, something that stuck out to me, and I couldn't unsee it, is at the end of that sequence when they've kind of wrestled over the gun and Riff has it back and they're all going bang, bang,
Yeah.
like I was looking at how they were standing on what was supposed to be like a brick like road, and I'm looking at just something, I don't know what it was about it that caught my eye, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's like a flat flooring that just has a print of like a brick walkway on it, and it's very obvious because of the way it looks and the way the light is hitting it. It's very obvious it's like a completely flat, smooth surface, which makes sense because they were just
Right,
doing
they're
some
dancing.
dancing on
Yeah.
it. Like you don't want to trip, but it was something that like I don't know what about it caught my eye, but stuck out to me, and I couldn't unsee it once I saw that. So it just goes to show you that the movie trickery is
I didn't
very
notice that, so,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, now you have to go back and look at it. I'm telling you,
I know.
but
I'm gonna have to
it's
go
crazy.
back and look. I have a Blu-ray player, but I have the disc I bought has the 4K too, but I don't have a 4K player. So now I'm gonna have to go buy a 4K player and
Just buy an Xbox.
rewatch that scene. But yeah, they do all like other location shooting. They do some in Harlem, in Washington Heights, which is also Washington Heights is Brooklyn. They do some in Queens. There's like a church in Brooklyn that they shot the G Officer Krupke song in.
That's crazy.
The sanitation shack with like the salt, with all the like salt and stuff for the Rumble, that was at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, that building. So that's a on location thing. The whole like demolished area is like supposed to be a stand-in for this place called San Juan Hill, which was an area that was like heavily Puerto Rican residents and got like demolished, and Lincoln Center got built there. So when you're seeing like the plans, that it's showing like that's Lincoln Center, which was
Mhm.
built there. And so, which ironically, the movie premiered in Lincoln Center. So there's a little bit of like, I wonder if when the people saw that, there was kind of like some nervous chuckling going on of
It's kind
like,
of sad. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But that whole sequence was done in Paterson, New Jersey. So kind of
Uh,
looks like period New York there around in that area and whatnot.
yeah.
So
It reminds me of here in New Orleans. Supposedly at one point we had the largest little Saigon, like Vietnamese kind of community outside of like maybe New York here in New
yeah,
Orleans, and a lot of that supposedly got demolished, and they could build stuff for Tulane like way back in
gotcha.
the day. So I
Yeah,
remember reading that once. Don't quote me on that, but
yeah,
I'll have to find somewhere. So it's just it's one of those things that
yeah,
it happens at the time, and you couldn't
yeah,
really do much to stop it.
yeah. I mean, you still can't do much to stop a lot of that stuff,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's so there's that kind of like sad thing going on with that scene if you kind of are familiar with what was going on back then. Patterson was also about half of America was shot in Patterson, and then the finale was shot in Patterson as well.
Mm.
So the whole like Tony getting shot and the procession and all that was in Patterson.
Spoilers.
Oh God, he dies. Yeah,
Which
and
which
Patterson
si
also the location for the great Jim Jarmusch movie starring Adam Driver. So shout out to
Oh, the
that.
same Patterson, yeah.
Yeah, that's what Patterson is.
Okay. I was gonna say a little
His
side
name is
note.
Patterson and he lives in Patterson.
Look at that, Patterson squared. But, a little side note is, you watch this with your wife. I rewatch with my girlfriend, and, she was really excited for it. She's, like, musical. She'd never seen it, and at the end of it, she tells me, she's like, "I'm upset with you." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "I thought this was gonna be, like, a fun, like, cute romantic movie. You told me it was a tragedy." I was like, "I told you it was based on Romeo and Juliet. You know what happens at the end of Romeo and Juliet, right?"
Yeah, yeah. Luckily, my wife had seen it before, so there wasn't that surprise
She's
for
prepared.
her.
She
Yeah,
was
she
prepared.
was prepped. Normally, when she watches something that does not have a happy ending, she'll proceed to go in the bedroom and get in bed and turn on The Office on her phone to
Just to
lighten the
cheer
mood.
herself up so she
Yeah,
can go to sleep.
yeah. So that's a fun fact. I think that's healthy. I guess
You sure she hasn't watched Chisholm the Paper?
she is not. I don't know if you can call that anything related to The Office. To be
No.
honest,
Oh.
have you watched some of it?
No, I've just seen the trailers and the few
Yeah, it
clips they
doesn't
put
look
out,
good.
and I'm like, they forgot to make it funny.
Oh man. Yeah. The only other two locations I have are the gym was shot at St. Thomas Aquinas College, which is like kind of just outside New York City, I think. And then
It's certainly the most gymnasium-looking gym.
yeah, it is.
Perfect.
And then they did some shooting at Steiner Studios, which is a studio in Brooklyn. The behind the bleachers part of that scene was in the studio, Maria's alley. So when Tony like gets into like the actual alley where they're like talking and he's climbing up that
Mhm.
was just a huge set they built at Steiner Studios. And then like I know the Gimbals was a set that they built there for I Feel Pretty.
Mhm.
I'm sure there was some other stuff that they
Oh, yeah.
built at
Pretty
Steiner
much
Studios, but
any
yeah.
interior shot is
Yeah,
gonna
like the
be
shop,
in the
the
studio.
Valentina's shop was probably
Inside the apartment, probably
probably.
built
Mhm.
there.
So that just didn't come up in my research, so I didn't write it down.
Mm.
But yeah, obviously like we talked a little bit about like the camaraderie. One of the things that I came across was that in 1957, Rome Robbins didn't let the Sharks and the Jets like intermingle when they were like off stage. It was like this kind of like creative choice, I think, to kind of keep that
The animosity.
antagonism, yeah, between them. Spielberg was like, forget that. They are going to have fun. Like he was all about like celebrating the diversity, and some of the actors and the special features are like, it's really crazy to like be like playing basketball or like, having fun, like laughing about something, and then we have to like get on screen and like hate each other.
Mhm.
But I do appreciate like the different approach there, like, but that's kind of the atmosphere Spielberg always tries to set on his sets. So set on a set is kind of a weird sentence structure, but oh well. But yeah, and then like several of the actors and crew members talked about how like we kind of talked about Spielberg's like passion and love for the material kind of like sets the tone for the set and just the energy, and not just like the energy and the love for it, but also like wanting to do it right,
Mhm.
Everyone knew Spielberg loved it and wanted to like make the best version of it he could. So it kind of like brings out the A game in everybody, sort of thing.
Mhm.
But yeah, let's talk before we get like into some of the other stuff. Like I want to talk through the songs, and we can just talk about like which songs we liked, what was our favorite stuff there. Let's talk a little bit about the cinematography and camera work, because I think you'll have some fun like insight here. So I guess like a good place to start. I see that you're there in the notes. Spielberg was there for like all the rehearsals. So him and
Mhm.
Justin Peck for like the choreography were like working hand in hand through the rehearsals. He was there. I saw him recording on his iPhone. I saw him recording with like a little handheld like home video
Your digital
camera.
cam, yeah, your
Yeah,
dad cam.
yeah, dad cam, exactly.
Just a proud dad watching his kid's performance,
Oh yeah, which funnily enough, I think I heard Spielberg in the Director's Cut podcast, which is like a DGA thing, talk about how he has like home videos of his kids performing like parts of West Side Story.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, he was there doing like filming at the rehearsals. It's basically like storyboarding with your iPhone
Mhm.
during rehearsals. So he's basically like figuring out how he wants to shoot certain scenes, like based off of the choreography that Justin Peck is putting. And then
Mhm.
sometimes it would happen in reverse. Spielberg would like go up to him and say, "Hey, I think it would be really cool to get this shot." And so Justin Peck would adjust the choreography so that that shot could happen. And that's all happening during rehearsals. And then on top of that, he's also like storyboarding.
Mhm.
And so they're getting the orchestration done, and he even did some stuff where he was like taking a camera and moving it down like storyboard piece to storyboard piece as the music is playing to kind of like plan out like the
Mhm.
shot sequence. When are we going to this part in the song? When are we going to this part, this shot? Just a ton of like work on the front end of like mapping out all of this. And I just I don't know, like, if there's anybody better to do that sort of thing than Steven Spielberg.
Mhm.
Um, he he's like he jokes that he has his like stick figure storyboards, like quality of drawings aside, just like the mapping out and planning of that sort of thing. He's just like masterful at. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then on top of that, um, I was kind of thinking about, is there another is there another like genre of film that kind of like forces you to utilize the full extent of what a film can be more than a musical? I mean, I think probably so, but it's up there, of like,
I think it'd be hard to argue there's another that because because it's like it gives you such a wide range of different things that
right,
for instance, like the choreography part. Like an
hmm
action movie might do it better, but
right,
having to do have all these different because it's like a musical number, it's like a great action set piece where you have all
it
these
is,
moving parts. You got to move the camera in and out of, and people are like I love seeing the behind the scenes of like a really good fight scene, just seeing like how many people are like ducking behind the camera, man, and
yeah,
stuff like that. And there's a lot of that same kind of stuff. And like, and again, the same thing with like any action film, like your John Wick films and stuff like that.
that's what I was
Like
thinking of. Yeah,
everything has to be timed. It literally is. Like I think actually I want to say it was the guy who is in the most recent Karate Kid film,
okay,
whose name is escaping me right now, but he was on the show from Corridor Digital. I think it was Stuntman React. I want to say. So he went on there to promote the movie because that show's gotten popular enough to where people go on there to promote their stuff now. And they were
Yeah.
looking at like some fight scenes from like Jackie Chan and stuff, and some stuff from the new movie. And
Yeah.
he was talking about how his background is actually in musical theater, like growing up,
Yeah.
and how that actually, like learning like dance routines, actually helped prepare him for learning the choreography for Karate Kid Legend, because it's like the same kind of process of like learning the rhythm and learning the steps and
Right.
learning the timing, you know.
Yeah.
But also with most musicals, you also have these really great kind of more intimate character moments that allow you for a complete different approach. You know,
Mm-hmm.
most musicals you're gonna have some like comedic timing you have to learn how to do, and
Yeah.
so I think there is something to it to where they have like all these different kind of bits and pieces coming together.
Yeah. And I was thinking about I was thinking about that too. Like, okay, a big action set piece is maybe like the other closest thing to like, you have to really utilize every aspect of what a film can do as far as like camera movement, like like you want a good action set piece also is all doing something with the character, the best ones at least. You have a lot of moving parts. You have, things exploding, or things like coming in and out of camera a lot, like there's a lot of camera movement, and like that, like a musical number has all of that stuff, but also like there, there's people singing and
Mhm.
dancing, and I don't know. I was just thinking like, man, I think musicals really do like force you to do all the things that a film, if you're doing it well,
Mhm.
in other words. And I think, I think the forerunners of like how to shoot a musical, like you think about like Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers
Mhm.
films, and and then like think about like Stanley Donen films like Singing in the Rain.
Mhm.
Um, they did a lot to like push the form forward in the sense of like, we're not just going to like film people doing dance numbers on screen. We're going to actually like utilize the film art form and like move the camera and make like directorial choices with how we're shooting something and the angle and the way the camera's moving. And so I think those are like, there's some great films in there. I mean, Singing in the Rain, I think, is a masterpiece, and I probably
Mhm.
still would like put higher than this movie. But in the sense of like how to move the camera around a musical sequence happening, I
Mhm.
don't think anyone has done anything near what Spielberg does in this film. It's
No,
incredible.
at least not with like a very like classical take on a musical. I think
Yeah,
I mean
yeah,
there's a lot of like more modernized musicals I think have a very different approach.
sure,
But as far as like a very classical kind of version of a musical like this, I think that is one of the biggest reasons that this kind of readaptation, so to speak, just works so well, is
yeah,
that it's taking like, what, like almost like 50, 60 years worth of learning how to of like changes in filmmaking technology
yeah,
and new techniques, and like they're just simply able to do things in 2019 when this was shot that they literally couldn't do in the 1960s when the
right,
original film
right.
version was shot, because of the weight of the camera, the size of the camera, the needs of the camera,
Mm-hmm.
um, you
Yep.
know, and like I don't know if this was shot on film or digital. Either way, it looked
Film.
phenomenal.
It was shot on
Okay.
film.
But
Yeah.
even with being shot on film, like the modern film cameras are so much smaller and lighter and
Yeah.
easier to work with.
Probably a lot quicker to change out the cartridges too.
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure. And so, and also just all the kind of additional equipment. Like I
With
don't know if you mentioned
lighting
it in your
even.
notes. The lights are brighter, but also lighter and smaller, and you
Mm-hmm.
can put in places you couldn't before.
Yep.
I think you said in your notes about the crane work, like the big giant crane arms, which
Yes.
they had that kind of stuff back in the day, but just the
Right.
stuff we have now with the hydraulics and the controls, like
The
there's just so much,
smoothness. Yeah.
there's just so many more tools available. Add on to that, having somebody who is a master of movement and timing and is like at the height of his powers in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I will say, I think what I appreciated when I saw this movie, as opposed to like the last couple of Spielberg movies that had come out in the more recent years, is and kind of learning about how special West Side Story is to him. It really makes sense because I think I remember seeing like Ready Player One and maybe some of the
Yeah.
other more recent Spielberg movies. I wouldn't put him up there with like someone like Ridley Scott, who I'm really like, I think he really needs to retire because his last couple movies have felt very phoned in my opinion, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But like, I think Ready Player One especially, it didn't feel like the
Yeah.
Spielberg magic just wasn't there.
It
And
wasn't.
this movie, like on my rewatch, it's hard not to just be smiling the whole time you're watching this movie
Oh, yeah.
because it is just a spectacle to behold. The colors, the glitz, the glam, the way the
Yeah.
camera moves, the performances. It's just a great time. A
Yeah.
great time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm scrolling down because I wrote in my notes for like scenes that I loved. There were a few times when like I think I audibly like reacted to like I think one of the times was when the Sharks and the Jets enter the warehouse and it's that overhead shot of their shadows crossing.
Literally, my girlfriend Mirna, she was like, "Wow, that's a really good shot." And she doesn't. She like
Yeah.
she loves movies, but she's not the type of person to be like, "Wow, that's such a good shot." But she
Yeah.
she literally was like, "Wow, that's a really good shot." Like with the long shadows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I think I literally went, yes.
yeah. No,
Like-
that shot's great. I really like. There's some really good like close-ups in this movie.
Yeah.
I love the scene of Riff and Tony in the little
Mhm.
like basement, like just the intimacy there, the way, especially. Oh my gosh, dude, when they're like on opposite sides of that shelf, and Tony's like, "Well, I went to prison. What I did to that kid, what I almost did," and there's a little like reflection, like light bar, like being bounced into their eyes.
Yeah.
Every single character always has like the sparkling eyes in this movie, and it's great.
Yeah.
I love that. I love some of the intimacy, the close-ups of like the one hand, one heart scene.
Yeah. I was
That
going to
one's
mention
great.
that. Yeah. And you have the lighting from the stained glass, like giving the color to make it feel like this like
Yes.
sacred moment, you know?
Yes, it's beautiful. As well as, I mean, I think the dance scene, everything about that is great. I love just the shots of the two of them from across the crowd as they're
Yeah.
kind of following each other. I also really love they go behind the bleachers and they're having their little moment, and I love when they like snap back to reality and the production design is completely changed and like it looked like this very like kind of clean like magical space, and then like you see there's like a basketball on the floor and like a random mop bucket and just
Yeah.
there's a lot messier.
I think even like
The
when
lights go away.
when they're like having their moment, there's like even this like fogginess, the kind of typical
Yeah.
Janusz Kaminski like fantastical fogginess in the air. And then
And
I
it just
think when it
cuts.
cuts, I think
Yeah.
that's kind of like dissipated a
Right.
little bit. Now
Right.
that you
I
mention
love
it.
the little colored spotlights that come on when Maria walks around, and when it cuts, those are gone.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really nice little touch. But I mean, the whole dance sequence at the gym is great. And then I think one of the other biggest upgrades of this film versus the original is the entire sequence for the song America.
Yes.
Instead of just being
So
locked
good.
in on stage on that rooftop the whole
And it's
time.
great. Don't get
Yeah.
The
I mean, it's a
original
great
is
song.
great.
It's
The
a great
original,
song.
yeah. But this is like it's a celebration, like
Yes.
this one is. And that's what
Yes.
and even like one of my favorite, like I think one of the other shots where I was just like, oh yeah, when it was happening is he does this like low angle shot where they're dancing in the middle of the street and the shot is like very like symmetrically composed with the skyscrapers coming up on either side of them, and you have the sky in the background, and it's just this like beautiful, like I don't know, this beautifully composed low angle shot, like looking up at them, and then of course like they're just like bringing the joyous energy, and yeah, love that whole sequence. That was like a standout shot to me for some reason that stood out. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much to really love about the way this movie was shot. It's just incredible. I don't know. And like some of the things you were talking about too are just, they're things that are so like purely cinematic. Like you could not have this moment on a stage. And when you adapt a stage play or a stage musical like to the screen, you have to do things with it that you could not see on the stage. So
Yeah.
like Maria and Tony seeing each other across the gym is one of those moments, because like not only do you have like blurring dancers passing in front of the camera,
And the long lens that they have at Tony, where he's like, you could tell it's a long lens just because the way it works, it
Yeah.
looks. You could tell like they're probably on like a couple 100mm lens,
yeah,
and
but
like he's
they
kinda, like, a
also
little
kind of
fuzzy.
they also do this effect. I don't know if it's like something they're doing with the way they're filming it, or if they're doing it somehow in post, where like it feels like everything else is slowed down around them almost. It's not like a oh, I'm watching like The Flash when he's running and everything's slowed down. It's kind of like this more subtle thing.
It's a very surreal kind of
Right. But you can't do that on the stage. It's just a different medium that doesn't allow for that. And so there's a ton of those moments that are just so like purely cinematic that make this obviously stand out from what the stage play would be, but even from like the original adaptation, which is obviously like, well, a classic and great, but I don't know, the way Spielberg shot this was just so good. Like even just thinking about like the final procession of carrying Tony off, and the camera's like the whole thing is being framed through the rungs of like a fire escape ladder as the camera moves up. Just that, it's like a very like, it's a very like deliberate choice. Like he's doing something with that framing and the way he's doing. I don't know. It's also great. Yeah. Janusz Kaminski also talked about how when you have lots of people in the frame, it's a nightmare for the cinematographer. And he was just talking about like, you have to create this like deep focus. And so you have to like use an incredible amount of light. You have to like get a sharpness from the foreground all the way to the background, because you're wanting to capture all of the dancers, all of like the movement of everybody needs to be sharp and in focus, because it's all working in sync, which I would imagine is a pretty tough task for a cinematographer. You could probably speak to that. I don't know if you have experience shooting a lot of people in frame, but I'm sure you can imagine, as someone who
not
films.
in a way in which you really have to pay attention. Like,
Right.
most of my experiences with like a lot of people in film on sets has been a lot of extras, but nothing like a dance sequence,
Right.
And most of that, even then, it's been a lot of what they call paneling, what essentially is like, example is when I worked on Happy Death Day 2, they needed to have a big crowd for this basketball scene. Well, instead of paying for 5,000 people, you pay for 500. You put them all in this one little area, you film it, you film a couple different reactions, and then you move them over, you switch them all around a little bit, you film it again, and like you do that, and then in post-production, they will stitch those different components together.
Yeah.
And then you have your crowd, and it's like, it's like all real people, but just kind of layered slightly differently. So,
yeah.
And again, for it all to be a bunch of like kind of mostly background shots that you're not going to notice.
Yeah.
Yes. But nothing like this. I can't imagine when you have your key players you're trying to stay focused on, and you have like at least 20 people that are going to cross in frame, it just kind of can throw everything off. But
I mean, if you think about like the wide shots in the gym, like you want it to be something where like every time you watch it, you can notice like a new couple and what they're doing with their dance. And so you want a sharpness and a focus like from like front to back, really just incredible work by, this might be some of even Janusz Kaminski's best work. Just everything looks so good in this movie. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say, that gym sequence, while we were talking about that, there were 60 like dancer actors and 150 extras. So that just goes to show you like how many moving parts are going on there.
And it's not that big of a space
Yeah.
for that many people to be filling up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's talk through the songs and sequences, and we can kind of like use that to kind of make our way to the end here. So the first, we talked about La Barranqueña. It's the first thing actually sung in the movie, but then you go into the Jet song, which is really good. A lot of moving parts again, a lot of like moving down the street. You're doing a lot of tracking shots. But I think too, like one of the things that it's born out of, I think, is like this. So when the sharks walk away, you can even kind of see like this twinge of like respect in the eyes of the Jets. Like they kind of respect the sharks in a way, because they kind of have a common enemy in Lieutenant Strank. But then when he goes off,
because they both kind of stand up for each other in
right.
that moment.
Well, there's kind of like a, you know, a snitches get stitches kind of thing. You know, there's like neither of us are going to
no one's
snitch
taking
on
you down except for me kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. This is our thing. You're not involved. Like we're not talking to you. You know, I think that's a kind of a typical thing. But like, so it's born out of that, but also like there's kind of this sense with the Jets that they like have nothing to lose really. Like they've already lost pretty much everything, so they don't really have a whole lot to lose. That's kind of juxtaposed with this kind of like defiant hopefulness with the sharks, I think. And yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic, I think, between the Jets and the sharks, because they kind of probably have more in common than they think, sort of thing. It's one of those sorts of things. And I think that kind of culminates with like that final procession at the end, kind of laying that point down. But the differences are interesting too, because it's the difference between La Barranqueña, which is this very like strong-willed, hopeful, defiant song, versus like the Jet song, where they're confident, but they also like, there's this like anger and frustration that like bubbles up the further into the song they get. So like the first verse is like, you know, when you're a jet all the way, and we're awesome. But by the time you get to like the end of the song, you can tell there's a more like defeated frustration to how they feel. And so I just thought that was an interesting juxtaposition between the Sharks and the Jets.
Yeah, I know, you know, we'll probably get into some more of the themes here momentarily. And I'd love to save some of my commentary about kind of what you were saying with some of the similarities and things between these two sides. But, you know, one of the things I'm thinking about is that, you know, there's probably a lot of people who are listening to this who maybe they've never seen West Side Story, maybe they've never even heard of it. But the more I think about it, the more I think West Side Story may be one of the most parodied like musicals ever made. In the sense of like the whole idea of like the snapping and the dance fighting, like that, there's like tons of stuff that have made fun of that.
Sure.
And I can't really think of any other movie or musical other than West Side Story that could have originated from, because it's such an iconic thing from this movie, especially for that Jet song when they all start. I mean, even in the beginning of the movie, when they all start like snapping together, and the ba-da-bum, bum, you know, like, you know, it just, I don't know. It like if I think of like, you know, snapping in unison while we walk and we're acting like a bunch of tough guys, or like I literally saw this like random like Instagram reel that someone made where it was like a skit where like someone like bumps into him in a convenience store. The guy's recording. He's like, all right, now you're really going to get it. And he starts like slowly walking towards the guy while snapping. And like you're expecting like some other people to come beside him, but it's just him by himself the whole time for like 2 minutes straight, walking toward this guy in the convenience store snapping. And it's like, they've got to be making fun of this, right? Like where else are they going to get that from? So I do think that it's kind of interesting how it's maybe had a bit of a hidden kind of influence on pop culture that maybe people don't realize.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think off of that point, something that I noticed, because like thinking back to the original adaptation, like that is different here is I think that the jets here feel more like dangerous. There's like a actual, I don't know, there's a grittiness and a danger that you feel with them, that maybe is less so felt in the original adaptation. Um, and I don't know exactly, I can't pinpoint exactly why that is.
I think in the original they all just feel a little too clean cut.
I think that's what and
Here,
there's like this color, there's like this
uh-huh.
color palette that like the sharks wear these colors, the jets wear these colors, and that's not really a thing in this one.
Yeah, and I think here is, especially the way we're introduced to all the different jets in this film, like they just feel like a bunch of like street kids. Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
they're never at home. They're always out and about. They're all kind of dirty, super sweaty. They got a bunch of grime all over
Yeah.
their shirts. Like they've been out all night. They were out all night the night before. They're going to be out all night again tonight. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
I do agree. There is like a presentation
Uh-huh.
that, and I feel like in this one, the sharks kind of feel a little bit more kind of presentable, I guess you could say. And I think that's also kind of a reflection on some of the themes that maybe the sharks feel like they have to be in order to be accepted. Whereas the jets are able to get away with kind of just being these like, these like scrawny, scrappy juvenile delinquents that could just be messy,
Yeah. Yeah. And I was just thinking like in this version, I might have just seen that guy do like a ballet twirl, but I still think he might like knife me if he really needed to.
I love the beginning overture where they're walking, they just start going,
Yeah.
and they just start to just randomly, just like trying to outdo each other. It's great.
They're spinning and sliding, and it's great. Yeah. And then there's like, I think that's why like the cool song in this, I think is really, I like that they restructured it and put that in front of the Rumble for this one, because
it fits really well.
It fits really well, and I think it does some good character development. You get to actually see, there's a little bit more that you get of the relationship between Tony and Riff, I think, from that. And and the dancing has a lot to do with that. What's incredible with like what Jerome Robbins did and then what Justin Peck does with this is that you kind of like get dialogue by the way people dance against each other. And I just think that's really cool. It's really impressive, and I don't know, to have an eye for that and to kind of figure out, okay, how do I show that these guys love each other but have like come to different perspectives on the world and like want to move forward in life. They're kind of like at a crossroads between each other, and you're kind of showing that all with like the way they're moving around each other and in this choreography. It's really impressive.
Yeah, it's all part of telling the story. I mean, it's just like, the best action scenes are ones that tell a story and like are motivated by the characters. I want to say it's like Jackie Chan who says that like every action scene has to be like tell a story of its own, and sometimes you can even be introduced to a character and the way in which they fight, you can like learn a lot about who they are as a person. Like, are they very cool and calm and calculated and they only strike when they need to? Are they rough? Do they make a lot of mistakes? Do they let themselves get hit a lot and then come back in, and so you do get that. And I think what I really love about Cool is I love the gun purchasing scene and like the intensity there and like the kind of back and forth and like Riff's desperation. And then it immediately cuts to them faking like they're shooting each other with a real gun that they just bought, which could have accidentally gone off and killed them. They instantly turned into like 5-year-olds. Running through the streets, and I'm just like, these boys have never grown up.
No.
This is why they're still in this position.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. We haven't really mentioned there's a few songs we haven't talked a lot about. So there's Something Coming. Something's Coming is one song. That one is maybe the most forgettable, I think, of the whole movie. To me, it's kind of like, I guess it's like Tony's like why song. There, that's kind of a thing in musicals for the main characters. You get the why they have the motivation they have sort of thing. But it's kind of a forgettable piece if there is one in the whole movie.
Yeah, you definitely could have cut that scene and
Yeah.
wouldn't have mattered. But
Maria and Tonight are both really great. We haven't talked a ton about, especially we haven't really talked about Maria, but
I mean,
it's
Igor kills it in his performance of that song.
Yeah, and you really buy that, like, he's kind of infatuated with this girl. You get one of like the coolest shots of the movie with, I'm pretty sure that's the sequence where you get the shot of him standing in the puddle with the lights reflecting. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's in that sequence.
I know Something's Coming starts off with him looking at himself in the reflection of the floor that he cleaned.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe getting confused, but it probably is.
No, it's him in the street in a puddle. And
right.
all the lights are like from the buildings are like reflecting in the puddle.
I love the random like floor sweep that's like rolling into the basketball. Like, well, I love how, because like he's singing the song and the lights start coming on, and at first you're like, oh, it's just one of those magical film things, and then Spielberg and Kushner and their genius, they include this little moment of this guy like turning on the lights so he can clean the basketball court. And he like runs over and he's like singing to the guy. The guy's just like, okay, bud. Great.
Moving on.
Just gonna get to work here. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's a fun little bit, I think.
Oh yeah. And then like, I think it is good like that they switched it back to the original of like going straight into Tonight. I think that works really well.
Magically happens to end up in the same alleyway that he needs to be. I mean,
Yeah, it does kind of feel like magical. He's just, because he is just kind of like guessing she probably lives over here, which is probably a pretty educated guess.
Yeah, it probably, I mean, I would say most of the Puerto Ricanos probably lived in the same area. So
right.
He was probably pretty familiar of what part of town he ended up in.
Yeah, and
it's almost like an old school cartoon where someone puts a pie in a window, and then the cartoon character like smells the pie and starts like floating as it's being carried along by the scent. Like that's the kind of feeling you get where he's just kind of like just floating till he finds himself in the exact place he needs to be.
Yeah. And then you get it's kind of like, the Romeo and Juliet balcony scene, it's kind of the, wherefore art thou, Romeo kind of thing. And he's down there, and Tonight is like a phenomenally written song. That is the song that I think I've been singing in my head nonstop since I watched it the other night. Out of all the songs, that's the one that like my mind keeps going back to, which tells me it's like a great song. So I don't know, that might be my favorite song of the movie. It's very like it's very like simple, but very like sweet. Like I feel like I could sing it to my wife and it would be like a sweet song.
Well, it's funny because during Maria, my girlfriend, her name is Mirna. And she's like, were you singing this when you met me? And I started going, Mirna, I just met a girl named. It's just like, I mean, it fits, And so I think I definitely prefer Maria. And again, I think
that's fair. Yeah.
Performance of it is, he's just got this like very like sweetness when he's singing this song. You just, like you said, you really buy that he's absolutely smitten.
Yeah. And I remember, so when I came into watching this after, not having seen it since 2021, 2022, whenever I saw it, I was thinking like, Ansel Elgort, his singing is going to be like kind of subpar to everyone else's. And there is a sense in which like when he is singing alongside Zegler, like she's blowing him off the screen, but not so much so that you think like, oh, he's not a great singer. Like he still sounds really good. I was kind of like,
Yeah.
I had for some reason low expectations coming into this rewatch from whatever memory I had of the first time. But I was impressed. He holds his own fairly well, I think, even
He's put out
against
some actual
Zegler's
music.
powerhouse voice. So
Yeah, he's got a couple like singles and stuff he's put out over the years, and there's one called Supernova that I remember when I found out about that song, I kind of was like, I think it's pretty solid. I think the man he actually does sing really well, but like you said, I mean,
yeah,
there and I don't know, it's just very different vocal performances in a lot of ways.
yeah, for sure.
But they go really well together.
Yeah,
Like if you talk about like One Heart, One Hand, One Heart, I think that their voices play off each other so well in that scene.
yeah. Yeah, and the just kind of skipping ahead to that song, they also like changed kind of like the vibes for that too. It's like a lot more serious and sacred in this movie, and
Hmm.
it's in the original adaptation. It's like, and I can't speak for like the stage play, the Broadway play, but it's more playful in the original adaptation, and in here it's kind of taking itself a lot more seriously. So,
Hmm.
which I appreciate. I think it's well done, and you kind of buy it,
Hmm.
especially because they set it up with him like bearing his soul to her, kind of, and like
Hmm.
being extremely vulnerable. Um, Goes back to like Tony Kushner's part in his writing of like, you've set up this moment where he's just like been so extremely vulnerable with her, and then now you can kind of buy into the seriousness of this, like speaking your, telling your vows to each other. Like she's thinking like, I can be vulnerable and give myself to this man because he just bore his soul to me.
Hmm.
And so I think that's, speaks to one aspect that I think Kushner like really set up the moment well for.
Yeah.
But yeah, in between, we already talked a good bit about America. Great, 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 great. One of the highlights of the movie.
So
Out
I
of
think I think I would argue maybe the best written of the movie, musically and lyrically.
yeah,
There's a lot to love about that song.
it's hard. It's hard to like argue against that for most of the songs. If anyone told me their favorite song was this, I would be like, yeah, okay, makes sense to me. But yeah, that one definitely like is one of, and at least in this adaptation, one of the more like just fun, exciting, just
Hmm.
joyful moments of the movie. And they shot it during a heat wave, so everyone was like burning up hot throughout the throughout the shoot for that.
Hmm.
And then the other one we haven't talked a ton about was G Officer Krupke, which it's just a extremely fun song.
And film and like the choreography and like just that whole sequence
Yes.
is really fun. I love when the woman, the only woman that's in there, she goes and locks herself in the cage
Yeah.
when all the cops leave.
Uh-huh.
And like I love the couple, kind of similar to like the kind of janitor that we get during Maria. They like kind of have a couple little insert shots of her watching that whole sequence take
Yeah.
place, and she's just like, "What is going on?"
What's happening here?
Well,
Yeah.
I love little moments like that because it's like it's almost like playing off as like, oh, these guys think that they're in a musical, and then this is like a real person in the world. Like, what is going on? These
Yeah,
guys are
yeah.
delusional.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then I mean really from there, like you've got we talked a little bit about the Tonight, the quintet version of Tonight. By the end of that song you have like
All the
overlapping and
pieces set.
responding vocals that kind of are very like operatic, and just really well done. But yeah, that's a great sequence, and that one I think displays like, I always talk about like Spielberg distinctives, like things that like Spielberg does really well, and I think the kind of sense of geography when Spielberg's like on his A game, his like sense of geography, whether it's like an action set piece or something like this, is just top notch. And I think you never like really lose a sense of where characters are or where they're going through this whole sequence, even though you're following like 5 different people or groups through the
Mhm.
city. So definitely Spielberg there. And then, yeah, then there's the Rumble, which is not a musical piece, but is a very like well done sequence, I think.
Mhm.
One of the things that I think I wrote down was Riff and Bernardo. So when Riff and Bernardo get into the knife fight, they both like, just acting wise, are like really putting off the energy of it's not so much even that they are like out for blood in that moment. What the energy they both put off is that like they're both scared for their lives.
Mhm.
And I think that's like so well done.
Yeah, like they almost don't want to be there, but like neither
Right,
of them can back down at that point. And
right.
I also, man, it's kind of one of those movies when you watch it and you're just like, come on, guys, just talk,
Yeah,
just work it out. Like no one
yeah,
has to die, and
yeah.
I love when Tony he gets in there, he starts trying to talk, he's trying to break it up.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, I think the one thing about the movie that sometimes feels a little off to me is that Tony, he doesn't really like. It's like he kind of feels like he goes back and forth on if he wants to stop the Rumble or not. Because he
Yeah,
seems like he's like, yeah, I want to stop the Rumble, but there's so many scenes where he like is just letting stuff happen. It's like, why don't
yeah.
why don't you like push a little bit harder? So I even in this scene, he starts trying to break it up and then not, and then yeah, and then not. And I love whenever, kind of Bernardo starts hitting him and he's just like taking it. He's just like, no, dude, I want to fight you. No, I don't want to fight you. And then finally, like, dude, something snaps,
Yeah, yeah,
after Riff gets stabbed, he just
yeah.
blacks out and just
Mm-hmm.
goes for it.
Yeah, the former
So,
self comes out, I guess you could
yeah.
say.
Oh, no, sorry. It's before Riff gets stabbed. He starts beating Bernardo
Right.
and then he realizes what he's doing, decides to walk away. And then kind of in the aftermath of that.
That's when the knife falls on the floor and then they,
Right.
yeah, yeah. And one of the other things that I noticed, like just camera wise, is it almost feels like the camera is like bobbing and weaving through once the
Hmm.
once all the fighting breaks out, the
Hmm.
camera's doing like some bobbing and weaving through the fight too, which
Hmm.
is cool. It works well.
Makes it feel very visceral, that whole scene,
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. Yeah, and then they talked too about like people were actually like tearing up and crying on set after, because I mean they were watching Riff and Bernardo die several times for different takes or whatever, and very like it wasn't just let's get the shot done. It was there was a real like visceral feeling in the atmosphere of what they were shooting it too. That I think comes across.
Hmm.
But yeah, and then one of the things that is like off-putting is how you go from the Rumble to I Feel Pretty.
Yeah, which
And
I
go
gotta
ahead.
be honest, not a song I love.
Yeah, that's
I
fair.
mean, I guess it makes sense, but it does kind of feel out of place. I will say, I think what's interesting about this song, though, is of all the songs from this musical, I think like there's two things from West Side Story that I think are very out in the cultural
Yeah,
zeitgeist.
the thing you already
The
talked
the
about.
the the
Yeah.
snapping and dancing, and then this song, because while we were
Yeah.
watching it, Mirna was like, "Is this from this movie?" I was like, "Yeah, as far as I know, it's original
Uh-huh.
to West Side Story." And because I think this "I Feel Pretty, oh so pretty," I think that's just like
Yeah.
a thing that's just out there in the culture, like people are familiar with that
I think
line.
I probably first heard that from Adam Sandler in something.
Mm.
What does he sings that in something, I think.
I think it's like a
Mr.
sound
Deeds
trend
maybe,
that's
or
yeah, I think it's a sound trend that's gone trendy on, like, TikTok at one point or something like that, and it's just one
gotcha.
of those things like, people don't know it's from this,
Yeah.
like, from West Side Story.
You know what's funny about I Feel Pretty is that Sondheim hated that song. He talked
He wrote
about,
it.
yeah. Well, he talked about like he was young when he wrote these songs, and a lot of the music lyrically is like very simple rhyme schemes. And
Mhm.
so he was like, it was one of those things where he felt like I'm young, like in hindsight, I guess, looking back, he's like, I just was kind of trying to show I can do other stuff too in my lyrics.
Mm.
And so he's doing more complicated rhyme schemes, a little bit more like, you have some of that in this song. And
I can
so
respect that.
and so, but then like, even before they put it out, he had already kind of like thought like, I actually don't feel like these characters would speak this way. It doesn't really fit like the characterization. And so he actually, I can't remember if he actually rewrote the song to be different or if he like wanted to do that, but the other three guys already liked it and they didn't want to get rid of it by that point. So it ended up in the final product. But he, even before the musical came out, he like had decided he didn't like the song and wanted to get rid of it. So
have you ever seen Jesus Christ Superstar?
I haven't. It's been on the list, but I haven't seen it. Yeah.
Well, again, another great like musical, like a rock opera, like a true rock opera, like almost no verbal dialogue, almost everything is sung. I feel to me, kind of feels like there's a song in that movie. I think it's called "I Don't Know How to Love Him," but I don't know. But it's sung by Mary Magdalene at one point in the musical. It's kind of the same thing where it kind of just grinds everything to a halt.
Yeah.
And if you're like, if this was cut out of the movie, everything else could still happen and be fine.
Yeah.
It is fun to kind of see Rachel Zegler having some fun, and I guess it's a good way of showing like her innocence, and she's just in such a complete headspace, and her brother just died, and it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition to what happens right after when Chino tells her what happens. But it is one of those things where it's like, I feel like it's very obvious that if this was cut, nobody would know, and everything could still move the way that it does.
I think at one point they had considered cutting it, but Tony Kushner like really wanted to keep it in and wanted it to like be thrown in like right after the Rumble. I think he felt like the like whiplash of it was like profound in some way, of like all of this is happening and then you cut to this and there's like this, it's kind of off-putting. So like even as you're watching the song and watching the joy on screen and the happiness, in the back of your mind that it's not gonna last. And so I think he wanted you to have that feeling for that song. And so I kind of get it. It is a fun song. It's fun to watch. It like, and I think moving it from like I think in the original adaptation, it's like in the tailor kind of shop with Anita and stuff, and I do like that they moved it to the gimbals, which was a fun to play around in the set and everything.
Yeah. She's just kind of goofing off at work a little bit.
Yeah, but I agree with you, but I do also like appreciate like what Kushner was going for with like having that like kind of like knowing in the back of your mind what's really coming down the line while you're watching this, having that in the back of your head the whole time, and the uneasiness, I guess, that brings. And it kind of even makes when she finally gets the news, it makes it a little bit even more bitter because you just saw how happy she was. I think all of that does give it some credence to like be like, there is a good reason for it to be there. But in general, I think I do agree with you. Like, it wouldn't change a ton to take it out either.
Hello again. Do you know how you can really support the show for free in just a few minutes or less? That's right. Just leave a rating and review on Spotify and Apple, or wherever you listen that might allow for ratings and reviews. These really help the visibility of the podcast. In fact, just hit that pause button right now and drop the review right now. And then you can get back to the show. I'd greatly appreciate it. Okay. I trust that you went and left that rating and review now. Back to the show.
Another song we haven't really talked about is Somewhere. I loved Somewhere in this. In the in the stage play, it's not sung by anything in particular, and it's actually like a ballet sequence. And then in the original adaptation, Tony sings somewhere. So I don't remember whose choice it was to give this song to Rita Moreno, but it was a great choice. She talked about how it's kind of like this religious song of belief and hope, which I definitely feel. And this is one of the moments that like I didn't like cry, but I was definitely like misty eyed during this sequence. And then I even maybe got even more like misty eyed watching the special features of them talking about it, seeing her talk about it, and then hearing kind of the perspective of like Spielberg and Tony Kushner of like why they made the choice. And it's just like, you know, we talked about Rita Moreno moved here when she was 5 years old from Puerto Rico. She's over 80 years old and she's lived through so much. And to have this song that's like this longing for somewhere where the cruelness of the world is gone and finally ended, is somewhere, someplace where we can just like be together and live like in harmony with each other. It's just like it's touching and heartbreaking and all of the things all at the same time. And so you have that, it's not just like Valentina feeling that as a character, but it even like watching the special features and just like seeing the context also of Rita Moreno as an actress and the relation there, the same feeling, the same experience made it even more powerful, kind of like in reverse, you know, thinking back on it. I love that sequence. I didn't do it this time, but when I was telling my wife about that, I choked up a little bit just thinking about how powerful and moving that sequence was. I don't know. Did you feel that when you were watching that at all?
No, to be honest.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, completely forgot this song is even in there. Like, I don't know why, but just.
I could see that.
I think
yeah.
because it's I think it's because it's a pretty short one.
It is. It's
so and
there's not a whole lot going on in it. It's
right. There's just so much that happens like right before and then right after that. It just my brain completely glazed over the fact that this song occurs. So I really don't have any necessarily strong feelings one way or the other about it. But I mean, I do love Rita in the film. I think she's a great addition.
Yeah. I just found it very like touching. But the next song also, it's kind of like a combo of two songs with A Boy Like That and I Have a Love. It's kind of the thrashing out of Anita against Maria when she catches, you know, her, which that's the choice is still kind of hard to like wrap your mind around of like, she's sleeping with this guy right after he murdered her brother.
That was just funny.
It's just still hard for me to buy.
my Myrna said the same thing. That was like her biggest gripes with the movie was number one.
It's the Romeo Juliet problem.
Right. Her biggest issues with the movie were number one, it was a tragedy and not the sweet romantic movie she was expecting. And number two, that she's like, I feel like Maria just forgave him. Like, what? And again, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's young. She's only 18, her first real love, you know. I was like, it's just like The Notebook, you know, like it's very similar to that where both those characters kind of never really get over that young first love. Ryan Gosling much more so to where he can't even really live a functional life after that whole situation. So, but I agree. It is one of those things that it's just one of those movie things, or like you said, the Romeo and Juliet problem, where they have to have a resolution. You know, I think it also maybe helps. I'm gonna be honest. It's gonna sound really dumb, but it's been a while since I've seen a version of Romeo and Juliet, and I think. Am I wrong that it's like her cousin that gets killed, not her brother? So I think it's a little bit more maybe acceptable in a
Yeah.
way in Romeo and Juliet, but because it's her brother in this scenario,
Yeah.
it feels so much heavier.
Yeah. And there's some pretty strong antagonism between the two that is set up
Mhm.
throughout the movie between Maria and Bernardo. And so like you have that in favor of
And then
Maria.
there's also the vibe of like Maria is very disapproving of his gangster activities.
Right.
It's very obvious that both her and Anita are of the opinion that if you keep playing gangster, you're gonna end up in jail or
Right. Or get
worse.
killed. Yeah.
Exactly. So not to say that it still doesn't make sense necessarily.
Right.
It's still a
Right.
very magical movie moment, but I do think, like you said, there is that antagonism there. There is this understanding that like it's not like her brother is like her favorite person in the world necessarily.
It's my only real quibble with the movie, and it's not even the reason why like I don't really give much weight to it as a quibble is because it's not even really the movie's fault. It's just like the Romeo and Juliet story structure. It's
Mhm.
like it's the fault of that. It's the fault of like the source of the source material. And so it's just like I can't even like fault Spielberg and Kushner and the acting, or I can't really fault any of that. It's Shakespeare's fault at the end of the day. So thanks a lot, Shakespeare.
Yeah, it's all Shakespeare's
God,
fault
that guy's
ultimately.
he was terrible, right?
I mean,
um, but yeah, so
maybe he might have been. Who
I
knows?
will say this about this quibble: Spielberg in this movie does a ton to help me forgive that quibble. One of the ways he does it is he doesn't cast um, Richard Beymer and Natalie Wood. He actually casts an 18-year-old girl in the role, and so that helps you buy it a little bit more. She actually is young, and so you kind of can buy the kind of young love thing a little bit better. I think Ansel Elgort sells his like infatuation with her really well. You have the like some of the lines he gives, like "I stopped falling the second I saw you." He delivers well.
Mhm.
The whole like siempre thing and like getting Valentina to help
Mhm.
him with the translation is like really cute and like endearing. So like they do a lot of like work on both sides to kind of
We
like
were
help you buy the love.
we were chuckling quite a bit at that scene,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Mirna was like, "Oh my gosh, it's you." Because I've her being for your listeners, she's from Guatemala, that's where she lives,
Uh,
and so we've had those same conversations where I'm like, "How would I say something like this?" I'm like trying to figure out like something sweet to say
yeah,
in Spanish,
yeah,
And so it was really, I think that was honestly one of the biggest things for me rewatching this movie is
yeah,
like kind of like experiencing this now with like dating a Latin woman and like kind of experiencing
yeah.
these different culture and like trying to take on some of it for myself to like,
Mm-hmm.
be able to like grow closer to her and her
Yeah.
family
Meet
and
her
like
where
wanting
she
to.
is, and
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And so it is kind of interesting that, I've had a little bit of that same experience,
yeah,
which is funny because like another movie that recently that kind of gave me the same kind of vibe was we watched Nope together, not Nope, I'm sorry, Get Out together.
yeah,
And specifically the scene where everyone's over for the party and he's having to like go meet these people and go meet these people,
uh-huh,
go meet these people. And he's just like feeling very awkward. I'm like, dude, that literally was like the first time I was able to go visit her and like meet all of her family and friends. It's
yeah,
exactly like I know a little bit of what it feels like to kind of be everyone's there to see like, oh, who is this? And so it's definitely interesting in this movie specifically to kind of see him sitting down with Valentina and being like, how would I say this?
yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, and then he starts trying to practice it, and I'm just like,
It's funny because like I was
"That's great."
listening, I don't remember which, I was listening to some podcasts that came out at the time of its
Mhm,
release of people like reviewing it. And one of them was talking about how like there's times where you go back to like something Ansel Elgort's doing and it really like brings down the energy of the movie. And he gave that scene as an example. And I was like, I just totally disagree. I feel like it does a
that
lot
guy's
to
never
help
dated
you.
a Latina,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. I
That's like
just feel
that's like
like
So the first thing you want to do is learn how to say some nice things in Spanish to
Yeah.
make them smile, you know?
I thought it was a very like fun and cute scene, and you get this
Yes.
like fun dynamic between him and Valentina.
Yes.
Also,
she's a very motherly figure. Like she
yeah.
wants to see Tony doing well.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was like, I just disagree with that take. I really I thought that was a good like little character building moment. And then like, I think the thing that helped the most maybe of all was you have the Boy Like That, which has, you know, Anita just like really
Tearing
lashing
into him.
out, and she's like, it's so good. She has the I think Ariana DeBose talked about, she was talking with Tesori, the vocal producer, and about like having these like imperfections in Anita's voice that kind of come out where she's not like singing so clean and perfect, but there's these, I don't know exactly like how she brings those imperfections out, but you can feel it in like a song like A Boy Like
she's
That.
about to lose her composure
Right.
the whole time.
And so that's good. And then you get I Have a Love, and my goodness, like Zegler sells me that she's like in total infatuated love with this guy, and that she would sleep with him no matter what he had done. And that to me like in the moment when she's doing it, I'm like, this makes no sense. Like, who would do this? Like, I can't believe this. But then she sings that song, and I'm like, okay, I guess so. It just goes back to another moment where Zegler is just like so incredible in this movie.
Yeah, I love when she's like, "Can you forgive me?" And Anita's just like, "You can't ask me that."
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, she said that about, can you forgive him? And then for herself, she said, can you forgive me? And it's kind of like she doesn't exactly answer, but kind of does. And a yes. It's kind of like, you're going to have to leave here, which is like maybe like a roundabout way of saying like, I can forgive you, but you can't stay, sort of thing. Because I had written down in my notes when I was watching that scene that I was just like blown away with the capacity of Anita for her to forgive Maria in that situation. And like, yeah, she's like, I can't forgive Tony, but why would she, or should she? You know, she doesn't know the guy. But her capacity to like still love and care for Maria in that moment, I don't know, it hit me as very like, it was a very powerful thing for a person to do that I think is like really sold well in the moment too.
Yeah. I think also, I do want to say one thing for me that I remember when I watched this movie. I guess it had been such a long time since I'd seen the original play or the original film version. There's a couple things that I picked up on in the movie that kind of annoyed me at the time. And then on the rewatch, didn't annoy me. I didn't remember it being as like annoying as it was. And then also there's one particular moment that like I thought they had added that I didn't realize has been in it the whole time. So one thing is remember, I mean, granted, remember this movie came out 2021. We just gone through all like the George Floyd stuff, and you know, like there was so much talk online about, you know, racism, anti-racism, all these things, which of course, like, you know, I just want to say against racism, obviously.
Right.
But I think it was at a point where like the discourse had just become so toxic from both sides, and I remember watching this movie and like I felt like they were kind of playing into that somewhat. And I remember getting annoyed by it with like the detective character. But then on rewatch, I'm like, oh wait, I don't know why I thought that, because it's really not.
Yeah.
It's like it feels very normal the way that the detectives are talking and everything. Like,
Yeah.
the one scene though that I was like, why did they add this? And then I come to find out it was even in the original musical. It was in the original film adaptation. And apparently when I was a kid, I watched the film adaptation. I just did not even realize this is what was happening, is the scene when Anita goes to Doc's to give a message to Tony.
Yeah.
And all the Jets are there
Mm-hmm.
and they attempt to rape her.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this in the theater and I was like, that's so out of like nowhere. Like, why would they do it? Like, why would they put this in the movie? It doesn't make any sense. And then I did a little bit of research and I realized like I literally on my rewatch the other day, I realized like that's been in there since the very beginning, which very, very like progressive for 1957 to have a scene where they almost rape a woman in your musical. Like,
well, like
it's kind of insane.
The big difference from the originals to this is they actually like call it what it is in this one. Because you know, there's a
And
little
maybe that's
bit
what
of
it was.
there's a little bit of in those old days. It's like there's still kind of that boys will be boys, that icky kind of boys will be boys kind of attitude. Kind of that was still there. They were definitely doing it, and I think they wrote it for it to be that, but it still was this time where like you didn't call it what it was necessarily. And in this one, she like, I can't remember if it's Anita herself or if it's Valentina.
No, it's Valentina. Says,
she says
I've
like,
known all of you since you were young and you've grown up to be rapists, which
rapists. Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that particular line. But I remember when I watched it in theaters and I heard her say that, and again on the rewatch, I'm like, something about that line just sounds, I don't know. I just don't like the delivery on that line or something. It's just weird to me. I don't know, something about it. But yeah, I mean, maybe that's why I didn't remember it from the original film version, because they don't really play into it and make it as obvious as what's here. And what's really interesting, and I don't know how much else you wanted to touch on before we get into some of the themes, because there's lots to talk about with themes, but I love, and by love, I mean, it's very sad, but I love how it's like the other women in the parlor, when she gets there, they're just as willing to play into the racism and the making fun of her and all this stuff. But when they start seeing that the Jets are feeling a little bit of blood in the water, they start trying to cool the situation down.
Yeah.
And then when they throw them out and they start descending upon her, and Grazie's like banging on the window, like, oh my God, please don't hurt her, don't hurt her. Because in that moment, she finally like becomes an actual, exactly. She becomes a person to her. Yeah. Before that, she's just whatever. But in that moment, she's like woman to woman, like, please don't do this, which I think is really plays into the fact that, like you kind of said earlier, like there is so much these two groups have in common. Yeah. And they just refuse to see eye to eye in a way. I think you could argue that the Sharks are probably a little bit more willing to find common ground, and the Jets are kind of more of the antagonistic ones. Yeah. But at least overall, I think there are like certain people, like Bernardo obviously he's got a very like anti-white bias, but obviously so, because I mean, like, hey, I don't want, Maria, you're not allowed to date an Americano and all this kind of stuff. He's mad at Tony for even looking at her, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sure, I mean, obviously he has his reasons for not trusting people in that situation, but it is kind of this just classic story of like, man, you all are both of y'all's groups are being played by the same people, which are the people who are trying to demolish this neighborhood to build these luxury apartments. Right.
Lincoln Center.
Exactly. And as well as like a lot of the themes in this movie, in this musical, like in the lyrics, like you look at the lyrics for the song America, and the whole time that song's happening, Mirren is laughing. And we were talking, it's like a lot of the stuff they talk about in that song are kind of still the same today. Yeah. Yeah. And we're like what, like almost 60 years later, 70 years later, what, 57, 2027 will be what, 60, 70 years, something like that. And it's just kind of crazy to think that like something written in 1957 is sadly still as, if not more relevant today than it was at the time.
And that's been a through line in this. So in this kind of stretch of Spielberg's career, which, several of these movies he's worked with Kushner on now, there's this through line of like Bridge of Spies, Lincoln, The Post, this movie, where they're kind of like, they're movies set in the past in this like political moment, and in this one it's a little bit more like political undertones, whereas
Mhm.
the rest of them it's like the overtone is political, but that are like, and even like Munich, going all the way back to Munich, which was when he first worked with Kushner, that like speak so relevant to today. That's like
It's like
it's
a apocalyptic
disconcerting,
prophet
it's
kind of
it's
thing,
sad,
you know?
and it speaks a lot to, I guess, like the human problem of it all. But yeah, I can't remember who said it in the special features, but somebody, I don't know if it was Kushner or Spielberg or who, I wish I had noted who said it, but they said the xenophobes of today are the immigrants of yesterday. And I thought that was such a good line that speaks to like this, what we're talking about, of like how they have more in common than they think. They're both immigrants. They both have the same enemy,
Mhm.
which is the people in power that are like taking
Mhm.
advantage of them. They're both fighting over something that's already lost in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Spielberg said they're both fighting under the shadow of the wrecking ball, is the way he put it.
Mhm.
Uh, and yeah, you know, it's it's sad. Yeah, it's sad, and it's hard to kind of like reckon with how,
Mhm.
yeah, and it does really all culminate like in that finale. You have Chino, who I do appreciate what they did with him. They made him a little bit more of a character. And he feels like he has no choice but to do what he does in killing Tony. And then like,
I do think it's interesting too about that real quick, because it's like he tells Bernardo at one point, "You're the best friend I've ever had," and Bernardo says, "Oh, you're like the smartest friend I ever had." And so you definitely get the vibe that like Chino's like, "Oh, Bernardo's my best friend," and
yeah,
Bernardo's just like, "Chino's just some guy," you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Well, what's interesting, before I continue the point I was going on, you mentioned the moment where Grazi and I think Velma is the other girl's name. They're like banging on the door. They have that moment of like connection to one of the, there's also other subtle moments in the film where there's that sort of like connection. One of them
Look
is
at the dance when where, like both sides are like, "We just wanted to dance.
at
Like we
the
don't care
dance.
about all this gangster stuff."
Yeah, the dance is one, a more obvious one, but another subtle one is when Tony and Chino get to the Rumble at the same time late. They help each other open the garage
Mm.
door to get in. They have this like moment where they like make eye contact, and they kind of have this moment of like understanding. We're both showing up. We don't want this to happen. We're going to try to talk our side out of it.
Mhm.
There's we can move past this sort of, it's all communicated non-verbally, but it's definitely there.
Mhm.
And then for the movie to just end the way it is, with
Mhm.
Zegler, when Maria has the gun and she's just like, I hate now. You feel
I
that.
love the way
You
she
can feel
delivers that
that.
line. Yeah. The way she delivers, she's like, "Wait, I hate now."
Yeah.
Like she's like realizing it for herself, you know?
Yeah. The innocence is gone. And then
Mhm.
like Tony Kushner made the choice. In the original, she sings part of Somewhere to him as he's dying, and he felt
Mhm.
like that didn't feel right, that she wouldn't be singing about this hopeful future to him in that moment. And so instead he has her
Mhm.
sing part of Tonight, and it's more this idea of, I'm losing you, but I'll hold you in my memory forever.
Mhm.
Instead of like a looking forward, it's kind of like this memory feeling. And I thought that was a really like profound choice
Mhm.
to make that change.
I think
It's like this, we
yeah.
need to remember the past.
Yeah.
We need to hold this in our memory so that we don't make the same mistake moving forward, sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think, speaking of like things that get changed, I think one of the things that was a controversial decision at the time, and I think when I originally saw this film, I found kind of distracting, but on a rewatch, not so much. I think is the fact that there's no subtitles when Spanish is being spoken, and I think honestly, if I'm being honest, I think it's because I'm so much more used to hearing Spanish now.
Yeah.
dating a Latin woman from Guatemala, having been there several times now to like spend time with her and her family, and just being like everyone speak, a lot of people speak English, when we're together, but obviously everywhere we go, there's Spanish being spoken. So just becoming so much more like familiar with hearing it and working on learning it. It was
Yeah.
not nearly as distracting, but I do remember when I saw this at the theater, like there was a part of me, if I'm honest, was a little annoyed because I'm like, I mean, I get why, but you kind of like could put
Yeah.
something in there. But I think I noticed that there was a lot more Spanglish than
Yeah.
actual just pure Spanish. So
Yeah. And
that
even
was
like
helpful.
when there is just like pure Spanish lines being spoken, you kind of know like what they're saying, even though
It's
you
not like
don't
overly important stuff. Yeah.
understand the words, because it's all like contextual. But I appreciate the choice. It's not the first time Spielberg's done that. He has a lot of, honestly, like most of the movies where you have like kind of other languages being spoken on the side and not like important
Mhm.
lines being spoken, he doesn't ever subtitle. But it is in this one, there does feel like there's a purpose to it,
Mhm.
because all throughout the movie, what do the white people keep saying? Like, speak English. And
Yeah.
so it, like, not subtitling it kind of emphasizes that like rebelliousness
Mhm.
against that to me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's really the movie. I really like the devastating I mean, I don't like the devastating ending, I guess I should say.
Mhm.
But it is appropriately devastating, I think. But I mean, there is a tinge of hope, because you do have finally, because of a tragedy, them kind
Mhm.
of like finally laying aside differences for once. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess there's like a small tinge of hope, but it is small.
Yeah.
Because
You do
here we
kind of.
are in 2025 with a lot of the same problems, you know?
Yeah. Am I the only one that like low key feels like a little bad for Chino at the end of the movie?
Yeah,
Yes, he killed
he kind
Tony,
of
but
gets
also
screwed.
like, yeah, he's like the only person that has to face the consequences of his action.
Yeah, the cops show up. Everybody else is like snuck off down an alley with
I'm sure
Tony.
they were a little bit too excited to throw him into the slammer, I'm sure.
Oh
But
yeah,
but
for sure.
that was that's like the one thing I'm just like, man, free Chino, man. Come on. Like,
For Fucci.
yeah, he killed Tony, but he can't be the only person that has to face the consequences of that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yes, I mean, this movie, it was dedicated to Arnold Spielberg, who died in August of 2020 at the age of 103. Whew. Um, but also another big thing that happened was in late November, Stephen Sondheim died. And so,
Hmm.
he got to be a part of the production of this movie. Spielberg said he was at every like vocal recording session they
That's
did.
awesome. Yeah.
Sondheim was there. So he was
A lot of pressure, but that's awesome.
all up in the business for it.
Mhm.
And and it is like for promotional material for the movie, with Sondheim saying like that he really loves what Spielberg did and it was great. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, but like I guess he doesn't have to say that if he doesn't think it. So,
I'm sure he
maybe,
wouldn't have been around for every session if he didn't want to be involved and
right.
he thought it was terrible.
Yeah. So that kind of like gave a little bit more heft to the movie, the importance of it. But it did release December 10th of 2021, kind of like in that period where you're still hoping like, oh, there's a Spielberg movie releasing in the theaters. Maybe we'll get another big thrust of people back to theaters after COVID. But, musicals aren't necessarily a thing that draw everybody. There's a lot of people that are kind of like allergic a little bit to musicals. There's not really like a young audience pool, because like how
Mhm.
much of a young audience are like can have a connection to West Side Story.
Mhm.
And it really ended up being one of Spielberg's biggest commercial failures. I think a lot, due to a lot of factors, the main one still being probably people just weren't going back to the theater quite yet. It only made $76 million, and I think the budget was over 100. million, so not great. It did
So when
open.
you're Spielberg, you can eat that.
Yeah, absolutely. It did open number one in the theaters to $10 million, which does not happen now, thank God. Movies are not opening number one to $10 million anymore. We're back to a little bit better than that. But, but yeah, but then again, the next week, Spider-Man No Way Home came out, and that was unprecedented commercial success. So
let me tell you, talk about a terrible release window.
Yeah.
I mean, this is right up there with one of the ones that I always think about is, I think, a really underrated action comedy directed by John McTiernan, who did The Predator, who did Die Hard.
Yep.
Great Arnold Schwarzenegger film, Last Action Hero. Great movie.
Jurassic Park.
Really, kind of, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it was it the same week? It was either the week before, the same week, or the week after Jurassic Park. One of those three. So I guess it was Spielberg's term to experience that, because he made that movie flop, and it's actually such a gem. Really ahead of its time, I think, when it comes to like spoofing like the action kind of movies and stuff. But it happens sometimes. I mean, you can't always bet on that, because sometimes a movie is a surprise success and it overshadows yours. But this is what happens a lot of times with these kind of big auteur films kind of things. Like I was really worried about this happening with Dune, because I really wanted to like have the complete story, and I was so happy when it was like, I think it was like the day before Dune was released, they officially greenlit part 2.
Yeah.
Finally, or like the day after or something, and Dune 2 almost kind of became a cultural phenomenon, meme in a way, and like surpassed. I literally went to go see Dune Part 2 at the Britannia Theater on 70mm film, and I think it was either right before or after the showing. These guys that were near me, one of them was like, "Yeah, I didn't watch the first part."
What?
What? So like that's the power of Dune 2, and I'm so glad we're getting Dune Messiah now as well. But it's just it is one of those things where it just happens. But luckily, when you're someone like Steven Spielberg, you're allowed to have a flop.
You can eat it. And it's at a point in his career where the flops don't matter quite as much, because he's Steven Spielberg. But like for me, revisiting this and just like absolutely loving it, it just kind of makes me sad that it came out in a time in theater going history where people just weren't going to the theater. I think I don't think I mentioned this on mic, but we were talking beforehand, and I was trying to remember if I had seen it in theaters, and I thought I had, but then I looked at my Letterboxd log, and I didn't see it until later in March of 2022, after it had already released on digital. So then I was second guessing, maybe I did wait till it was out on digital to go see it. I wasn't going to the theater quite as much back then as I am. When
was your kid born?
2019. But
okay. So
but
okay.
I
thought it was around that time.
Yeah, no. So we still like, I go see a lot of movies at theaters, and my wife will go when it's something like West Side Story, like a musical, or like we saw Freakier Friday the other day. Kind of a nostalgic movie from our past, like a sequel kind of thing. She'll go see stuff like that. But I can't remember if I saw it in theaters or not. But but yeah, this one, I mean, it was received well. It got 7 Oscar nominations: production design, sound, costumes, cinematography, directing. It didn't get the Best Picture nomination. I think it maybe got edged out by Coda, which ended up winning that year. I thought Coda was a fine movie. I didn't think it was like, oh, this should win Best Picture sort of movie. But oh well.
I think that Coda, I haven't seen it, but I know it's about the
fine.
Death
It's a good
family.
movie.
It's like one of those things where it's like, I mean, let's pick that one.
Yeah, it's like a 6 or 7 out of 10 sort of movie to me.
If it wasn't about a deaf family, it probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I agree. It did those were the 6 it didn't win. It did win one, which was Ariana DeBose for supporting actress. So well deserved. Keeping up the Anita. if in 50 years from now West Side Story gets remade again, I'm sure I guess the Anita will have to win supporting actress.
Yeah,
That's the rules now.
you got to keep it going.
But yeah, I mean, we've talked already really a lot about our favorite shots, and we've talked a lot about our favorite, like, I don't know, our other themes. Was there any other like thematic elements you wanted to hit on before we wrap up? I think we've hit them all, really.
I think we really hit all the major ones,
Race relations,
gentrification,
gentrification, immigration.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's all there.
it is. Yeah.
It's all still there. So,
Well, I'll hit my final thought then. Towards the end of the special features documentary, Spielberg says, "I'll be nearly 75 years old when the film comes out, and I realized you can teach an old dog new tricks," unquote. And he kind of at other points talks about like how much of a joy-filled experience this was for him. It gave him a lot of fulfillment. It gave him closure for this promise he had made to himself so long ago that he was going to try to remake this movie, or just make a musical in general. And I don't know, it just kind of, it made me like happy just thinking about Spielberg at 75 years old, like fulfilling a dream that he's had his whole life. Like how many people are like pursuing lifelong dreams at 75 years old and like pulling it off in such a phenomenal way. And it's just like, I don't know, it just was inspiring to me to like not give up on dreams that I might have or things that I want to do or pursue. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're 75 years old or, 20 years old or 40, it's not too late to pursue like whatever dream you have like in your heart.
Yeah, here's
kind of cliche, but that's what it got me thinking about.
Yeah, for sure. Here's a question for you. So Spielberg is currently, I just checked, he's 78.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got a couple of these classic kind of auteurs at this point. The New Hollywood, as they were, Scorsese,
right,
Francis Ford Coppola, some of these guys. I mean, they're getting up there in years. So, we got the Fablemans that came out. You'll be talking about on the next episode. I think he's got another movie coming out, next year?
Next year. It's supposed to be like a UFO movie.
How many more of these do you think he's got in him? Considering Clint Eastwood just made a movie at like 93.
90. Yeah. No, he still feels, when you see Spielberg and you like, I mean, you don't see a lot of him anymore, like out there, obviously, because he is older and he is like, I'm sure trying to spend as much time with his family as possible. But like when you do see him, he still feels pretty like full of energy and excitement. I'd imagine like I would bet that this next movie is not his last movie. So, he's just kind of the kind of guy that he might die on a movie set shooting a movie, He's just going to keep doing what he loves to do until he can't anymore.
Okay.
That would be what I would think is,
okay,
as long as he can get up and
move around and do his thing,
be on set and do his thing, then he's going to keep doing it. So,
okay. I guess a second question, because I won't be back before this Spielberg series finally comes to an end. I think you've been doing this for like a year at this point?
Yeah, over a year. Yeah.
Over a year. So you're just kind of reflecting on the series. What do you think was Spielberg's greatest run, movie-wise?
I mean, it's okay. Let me pull it up.
I also want to remind your viewers that for as many movies he's directed, he's helped produce
more,
infinitely more.
Yeah.
Like, so as much as you love Spielberg movies, there's probably a bunch of other movies that you really love that he had a hand in making. I mean, he is
absolutely, yeah,
quite literally one of the most influential filmmakers of all time, and will always be forever. Absolutely.
It's so a run of movies that are all great. Well, he doesn't have any run where there's just like all of them are just like phenomenal movies. I don't think there always is like a hiccup. It's hard to argue against the run from like Jaws through E.T. or Temple of Doom if you're a Temple of Doom person. 1941 is his worst movie in my opinion. So that's thrown in the middle there. But like Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders, E.T., Temple of Doom is a really great run from like the mid 70s to mid 80s. Then the other run, I would say his like starting with Saving Private Ryan in 98 or 98, 99, whenever that came out, through Catch Me If You Can. That's a 4-movie run. That's really good. But man, really like his run from 2012 with Lincoln, the BFG, you know, your mileage may vary with what you think of the BFG. I think it's fine. I don't think it's bad, but it's not great. I think Ready Player One has a lot of problems. So there's a couple of hiccups in there. But I mean, even like going back to War Horse, I think is a good movie. War Horse, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies, The Post, West Side Story, The Fabelmans. Those are all really great movies.
Yeah,
so
I definitely think like he's like
most iconic
70s
is
Spielberg was great.
Yeah, most iconic would be probably Jaws through Temple of Doom, that run.
Yeah, I think my favorite Spielberg is definitely like mid 90s to mid thousands. Like, I think of my favorite Spielberg movies, as much as I love the Indiana Jones films,
Yeah.
love E.T., all these stuff. I mean, I'm thinking like I love Jurassic Park, love Lost World. Schindler's List is a masterpiece.
I know you do
I
love
really
Lost
like
World.
AI.
Lost World
I
isn't
really
that
like
great
AI.
to me. AI is great.
I
Yeah.
also really, really, really enjoy Minority Report. That's a really fun movie. Catch Me If You Can. I've not seen The Terminal, but I've heard good things. War of the World. I love his version of
The
War of the World.
Terminal
It's
is
like very gritty, you know, not
Terminal.
a fun one, not a good one.
The Terminal's got a lot of issues.
Munich, I think, is one of my biggest blind spots. I've always wanted to watch it.
It's been one of my
I'm not to it.
Was one of my biggest, the blind spots that blew me away the most. Like the biggest surprise of the whole thing is probably Munich. I think it's phenomenal. And when you do finally watch it, you'll have the same feeling of, how is this so relevant? This should not still be so relevant.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out. I got to see what it's on that I can watch it on.
Here's my hot take, though. West Side Story is a top 5 Spielberg movie.
I don't think it's a hot take at all.
I think a lot of people might think it's a hot take, but
here's the thing.
I have it currently I have it slotted in at number 5.
Here's the thing with Spielberg, though. I think you could almost separate his filmmaking into 2 categories. You have the blockbusters, and you have like the auteur films,
like the serious dramatic films. Yeah.
I think West Side Story easily top 5 of like his more serious work, but he's just, I don't know.
But it's a lot of fun too. It's kind of.
What's your top 5?
Currently, my top 5 is Jaws, Schindler's List, E.T., Jurassic Park, West Side Story.
You have West Side Story above any Indiana Jones film.
I struggle. My favorite is Last Crusade, and I have it at number 6. So any given day, I could switch those two probably. But Munich is right there too, honestly. Munich's fighting for a top 5 spot too for me.
Hit me with your top 5 one more time.
Jaws, Schindler's List, E.T., Jurassic Park, West Side Story.
You see, I would not put E.T. in the top 5.
I love E.T.
It's a good movie. It's a good movie. It's fun. But I think, dude, I would probably go, not necessarily in this particular order, but you got to go Jaws, which I just got my ticket for the 4K re-release.
I'm going to try to go tomorrow night, I think.
I got a ticket for Tuesday. I was surprised to see how many days it was running. I think I got a ticket for Tuesday afternoon. I mean, I'd probably go Jaws. If I have to pick one Indiana Jones movie, I feel like you got to go with Raiders.
Yeah, that's... If I was like
Jurassic
making like
Park.
a Mount Rushmore of Spielberg movies, like my personal preference aside, Raiders would be on it. But this is like for me, like my favorites.
That's fair.
So,
well, okay, I'll go my favorites. I would say Jaws for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would still put Raiders. I think when you watch all 3 like Indiana Jones films, I think that's the one I do like the most.
Yeah.
Raiders. I think I'd go Jurassic Park, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like Saving Private Ryan, but I feel like I've only watched it once, and I feel like when I watched it,
It's
I
a
was like,
great
I
movie,
understand why
but
people think it's
yeah.
great, but I'm like, I don't know. I think I've seen better war movies. I'd rather watch like Black Hawk Down. Like I think that's a better war film personally.
Yeah.
I think West Side Story definitely is deserving of top 5 when you look at everything he's done.
Yeah.
But it's definitely I don't think E.T.'s top 5. I'm gonna be honest.
My top 18 Spielberg movies are all 4-star and up. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when you have 18 movies that are like 8 out of 10 or up,
And what is 1941 for you? Where did you rate that one?
it's number 40 on my list, but that includes like TV movies and shorts
Well,
and stuff.
what rating did you give it? Like what? How many stars?
1.5 stars.
Oh wow, that's pretty
It could
low.
go
I was
down to 1.
expecting.
It's,
Okay, I haven't seen it, so I mean,
I mean, it has some great production, but man, is it an awful, like for a movie that's supposed to be a comedy, I didn't laugh one time.
except for laughing at how
I'm not
painful it
kidding.
was.
Like, it's not
Yeah.
even like this is so bad it's making me laugh. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think I have a lot of respect for directors who like, and I guess if you made as many movies as he has, and there's
Yeah.
some directors that have made more, like you're gonna have some blunders. But I don't know. I think of someone like Denis Villeneuve, I think of Christopher Nolan, who are obviously two people who, if Spielberg didn't exist, they would not be filmmakers, right? Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
like Christopher Nolan is on the record saying the first movie he really attached to as a kid was like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and Stanley Kubrick and Steven Spielberg are like coming up together in the 60s and 70s when they start making stuff. So all part of this same kind of like young new Hollywood kind of stuff that happened in the 70s. And so
And then you got the
you know
AI crossover with
exactly. And so it's really interesting to see how not only can Spielberg like inspire filmmakers that we love today, but like they're still making stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just goes to show like how like cinema is like very old, but also very new still in a lot of ways.
There's still new things to do. And I think, just kind of like wrapping things up with all of this, like I think that this version of West Side Story shows that like there's still like if you're gonna the amazing thing about this movie is this came out at the time where like the things that you're supposed to remake are like superhero related or like Ghostbusters related, or that's the things you're supposed to remake. And here comes Spielberg and he's like, I'm gonna remake a 1950s early 60s musical classic. And it's just like the boldness and the courage to do that, and also like the confidence knowing that, or like at least hoping that you can pull it off and just nailing it. I just love that.
Everything about this movie is the definition of they don't make them like they used to.
Yeah.
And it's like one of those things where it's like it's kind of how I feel about like Oppenheimer. Like I don't really think there's anyone else in the entertainment industry other than Christopher Nolan that could say, I want to make a 3-hour biopic about a nuclear physicist and it's going to cost like $150 million.
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan says that, they're like, what do we sign? Anyone else? They're going to be like, whoa, hold on there. But
yeah.
And like the same thing with this, it's like, I really don't know if anyone else besides Steven Spielberg could have made this movie.
Oh yeah.
Because
absolutely.
they wouldn't have gotten the budget needed to make it at the level in which he was able to do so.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
Great movie. Phenomenal. Like, I love how much I loved this movie on rewatch. So
yeah, same. I bumped it from a 4 to 4.5.
Same exact thing. But yeah, I mean, there's not really much else to say about it. I mean, there are more things, more like interesting tidbits, but we've talked enough about it, I think. And I liked the kind of like look back we just did too. That was fun. We are going to record a 21st century movie musicals draft that you will hear next week. So JP will be on again for that. So that's going to be fun to kind of partner with this episode. And then, of course, we'll be getting into The Fabelmans, our last Spielberg film to cover. So bittersweet coming up, bittersweet episodes. But yeah, JP, where should the people follow you to keep up with what you're up to?
You always feel free to follow me on Instagram. That's always the best place to keep track of updates for whatever I'm doing, whether it be life updates, film related stuff,
Mhm.
or even maybe my own little things that we might be working on. So yeah.
Yep. And I'll link that in the episode description for you to follow him. I'll link your Letterbox too. Always fun to follow on Letterbox. So yeah, go follow JP on Instagram, on Letterbox. He does better than me at logging movies, I think.
I'm gonna be honest though, bro.
Way behind.
You're the one that got me more into logging my stuff on Letterbox. So I have had a Letterbox account for a while. I didn't really keep up with it that much, and I think it was you and maybe a couple other people that were like being more consistent. And so now, anytime I watch a movie, like the first thing I think about is like, oh, I gotta log it in a Letterbox.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be one of those cool things, like one day for like my kids to like look back on and
Yeah, I think so too.
just see all the stuff that I've
All my
watched,
stats. What movie did Dad watch the most? Oh, Fantastic
genre?
Mr. Fox and
Real.
the Muppets Christmas Carol. Okay.
Oh yeah, every year.
I'll watch those two movies every year. So Thanksgiving and Christmas. Yeah. Go follow JP. That's all we have this week. I've been Eli Price for Jean-Pierre Boudreaux. You've been listening to The Establishing Shot. We will see you next time.
We were happy here. For a little while.
But look, I figure it this way. Better to be king for a night than schmuck for a lifetime.